Bing bong. Okay. I think I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Okay.
You go ahead, lead it off. I'm getting ready for the end of this.
Oh.
So
Preparing for this to wrap up.
Yeah, already ready.
Max all ready to get this done with.
No, I got my movie recommendations.
Oh.
I got in my head a little bit of there's two avenues to go. So it's not like the road where it's just one destination. There's a fork.
You beat me to it.
Believe that.
Damn. Do you ever wish you would die? No. It's foolish to ask for luxuries in times like these.
Yes, Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall from The Road, directed by John Hillcott.
It's funny because when the credits came on, I think to lead off the movie, I want to say, or at least in maybe it was the description, they said Robert Duvall. So in my mind, I saw the name and I go, oh, wow, he's in this. And, it gets going and you just kind of forget. And then he popped up. I'm like, who's this old guy? I go, oh, it's Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unrecognizable Robert Duvall.
Yeah, they do a really good job with making them look like a part of the world. And it's not just like, oh, look, celebrity cameo. Like they actually feel like they belong in the environment, which I really like about that movie.
A couple of celebrity cameos in that film that we'll get to eventually.
Cameos that are also billed like they're actually on the poster.
There's only oh, really?
Yeah.
There's only three people in the film.
Because Guy Pearce is before Robert Duvall, even though I'm pretty sure he has less screen time.
Yeah, they're probably close.
Probably close.
Well, Duvall's
There's
got
not
like
much
his
at all.
monologue though, right? Like his little.
They've got like the campfire scene, which I think it adds a little bit more to the context of the world than Guy Pearce. But we'll get into it.
I'd agree with that too.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, but I figured we'd have a little bit more of a relaxed kind of vibe with the podcast. I know it's been a long week for the both of us. So.
Oh man.
We'll just kind of chat for a bit, get going on this. So I was playing Tears of the Kingdom a little bit before you came over, the new Zelda game.
There we go.
Yeah. Really great so far, although I'm only like maybe an hour into it, but I'm having a lot of fun.
Nice.
And I am trying to squeeze in as much as I can before I go to Yosemite. So
I know that sounds like it's going to be super fun.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. My friends and I are going, and we're going to be there for about a week. So while we're recording this, I'm going to edit this and put it out and schedule it for release. So it'll still release on time, but I will be on the other side of the country by then. And then by the time I get back, I'll have enough time to watch whatever movie or movies Mac recommends for the show.
Yeah, we got a couple different avenues.
Yeah, a couple different choices. Some forks in the road, as my boy said earlier.
Yeah.
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 But I feel like because we were talking before we recorded about how busy we've been this past week. Like I really haven't had much time to watch any other movies besides the ones that we're going to discuss.
I actually, for work, we had a training summit down in Tennessee. So I was down in Tennessee last week, and I've been on planes quite a bit. I've been on 6 planes in 2 days. It was a freaking hellish nightmare.
Jesus.
I shouldn't say that bad. I mean, it reminded me a little of Home Alone, but we were supposed to come back Thursday. Plane got delayed, then canceled. Mm-hmm. So we had already returned everything, checked out. We had to go back, check back, like get rooms again, only to fall asleep. Next day, the plane that got canceled took off to Charlotte, and then we get to Charlotte, and that plane going back to Grand Rapids got canceled. So it was like freaking rat race trying to find tickets, but your boy came out on top, sat down, grabbed my phone, immediately checked the app, rescheduled, got tickets while everyone was fucking panicking. It was rather enjoyable, but also just defeating. Yeah,
there's like a weird sense of not adrenaline, but like you almost perform the best when you're under pressure sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very happy that I came out on top, but at the same token, I was still upset that I was missing this point. So it was Preston's last day, Friday. So I got back, and my parents dropped him off at the airport, and then me and him had to hang out for a couple hours before we get on a plane back to Tennessee to drop him off and then hop on a plane back to Grand Rapids. So all in all,
hi son, I'm doing a flyby.
yeah. Well, I grabbed him. It was nice. We made the most of it. He was super happy to see me, and we went out and got dinner and whatnot. So it was, making the best of what you got, which has always been my attitude. But yeah, I watched quite a bit of movies.
Oh, nice.
So I probably watched like 4 or 5 movies in total.
That's more than I've watched this past week and a half, 2 weeks, or however long.
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I hate flying too. But Hulu, scratch that. Streaming services, you can download movies.
Yeah.
So I started downloading all these different films, and actually one of them piqued my curiosity to the point where it might get recommended.
Okay.
Yeah, so it very
Max keeping it close.
Very interesting movie.
Okay.
Yeah, to the point. I don't. We'll talk. Anyways, we'll get to the end and I'll mention it. So it's either you're gonna pick it or you won't, and if you don't, I'll let you know what it was.
All right.
Very interesting. Not in a good way. Like Speed 2 interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
well, either way, I'm down for a fun time.
It more than certainly would be. I guarantee you that much. I've never been so confused, and I've seen this movie before. I saw it way back when, but
it must have been like so long ago to where you didn't remember much about it.
Nope, I remembered it.
Oh.
Like literally it was like I was like, oh yeah, this happens, and then it just ended, and I was like, oh, maybe that's why my memory's so skewed of it, because I was just as confused back then as I am now.
Well, that's wow, that's very telling. I can't wait to dive in potentially.
Yes.
Depending on how things go.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a red pill, blue pill scenario.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that a major hint for
No.
Oh, it's not the Matrix.
No, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know when we fly out to Yosemite that we're gonna try to download RRR and watch it because Megan hasn't seen it yet.
It's not a bad film. That's not a bad film to have on a plane.
Well, also it's 3 hours long,
right.
And it will more than help the time of flying because it's going to be like a 4-hour flight or something like that.
You gotta be. We went to one of my buddies got married, and we went out to Denver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was a 2-hour, 20-minute flight.
Yeah, perfect movie time.
I was about to say, I gotta imagine Wyoming's got to be close to, unless you got like a connector flight or
well,
something.
We're flying out to San Francisco, so it might even be longer than 4 hours, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe we'll squeeze 2 movies. I'm not sure.
Jesus, RRR and something else. That's a long flight.
Yeah, it would be, but it helps pass the time sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah. I watched Spider-Verse last night, the new one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was. Yeah, I'd be curious what you think of it. Definitely take Preston to see it because he would have a real good time.
I think so. When the first one came out when he was 2, I want to say it was right around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're hanging out with a little kid, it's kind of hard to find the films that are going to keep them interested enough to where you can kind of breathe.
Oh yeah.
And that first one was pretty close. There'd be certain parts where you get into it, and then certain parts where it just faded out.
Yeah, I think this one amplifies a lot of what the first one offered while still maintaining like the same kind of tone and style.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it really is.
Because the first one was pretty impressive.
I recommend you go check it out. It was a fun time. Really good theater experience. And Preston, like I said, will like it. Even if he doesn't really engage with the characters or the story, at least he'll like what's going on visually.
I was about to say, he's kind of getting to that point where we can keep him somewhat entertained with like throwing, a movie on. And his new thing is The Flash. So I don't know if we're going to see that in theaters or not. I'm trying to, it's one of the things where you try to figure out how violent a movie is.
Yeah.
But I also we were at a campground for Memorial Weekend, and they did this, it was a pretty cool campground, and they did this thing where they throw up an inflatable projector screen, just whatever, the white canvas or whatever, but they had it where, it was it's sizable. And they threw on Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot how,
Captain America straight up murders people in that movie.
Rowdy that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's throwing people off ships after knocking them out, like off the hovercrafts and shit.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't, I'm not going to say it's negligence. I think that's just kind of the line of work you're in. Like, he can't save everyone.
Mm-hmm. I just find it funny that those movies, a lot of people forget that Captain America's kind of a monster.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Civil War, they bring it out with the human interest story.
Yeah.
But,
oh, did you say Civil War?
No. I Captain America Winter Soldier. Okay. I'm just saying, like, you're right, and at the same token, they do kind of present this is what you guys are doing, which I always thought it was kind of a fallacy. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to you're destroying cities. So, like, we have to keep you tamed. You can't do it. But at the same token, like, the people that are coming in are gonna kill everyone.
Yeah.
So it's not like just that city.
It's like, oh, you a third of the city is dead because of your actions. It's like, yeah, but if we weren't there, all of the city would be dead.
Right. Like, there's some sort of philosophy in play, like some altruistic thing going on where it's. We have to say, it's always kind of, it makes me laugh. I always think, like, it's a really weird argument to pick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, so I might take him to see The Flash, because we were watching Captain America, and he goes, is The Flash in this? So he's all about just,
he's all about speed.
Well, and the funny thing too about the Flash is, like, all right, I don't really condone Ezra Miller, so I don't want him getting attached to this guy and being like, oh, that's the Flash,
Yeah.
Right? Is it Barry Gordon?
Barry Allen.
Barry Allen. So you see Barry Allen and you're like, oh yeah, and it's like, no, that guy's a monster in real life. Don't know.
Yeah, no, I would keep you physically, like, so far away from him, like, on the other side of the planet, if I could possibly get that to work. If you go see The Flash, I might see it just out of curiosity of how messy it might be, or just how it turned out because of all the different shit that's gone on with Ezra Miller.
It's weird. Yeah, they I think DC does good jobs. Oh, that was a movie that I watched, was Black Adam. Tried to watch, fell asleep. That movie's trash.
Oh, it's fucking garbage.
It was The Rock mailed it in.
It's super turbo garbage.
It's really bad. Like, really, really bad.
I would love to talk about it.
Oh, man.
Can we talk about it for, like, a bit?
Today?
Yeah.
Right now?
Sure.
Go on with what you got, because I'm going to tell you right. So,
that's so funny. I've been wanting to talk to somebody about this movie,
dude. Give you the context.
Yeah.
I was going to Nashville to grab Preston, so the next day I was going to get him. So I went on a couple of rides and had a couple of drinks to kind of ease the nerves, and got into Chicago and hung out with some people. Like, I just meeting random people, sitting at a bar.
Yeah.
And it's just like small world stuff, So we all started talking. I had a couple of drinks. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm ready for bed. It's just been a long day. So I think I was up that day too at 4 a.m. because I had football.
Yeah.
And I think it's United or whatever one I went through had, like, in-service movies. Mm-hmm. Black Adam's on there. Can't find a movie I want to watch. I'm just trying to find something. I'm like,
yeah,
I obviously can't, like, focus too much, and, like, it's not like I'm sauce or anything, but enough to, like, I just want to kind of watch something, take it in. Cheeseburger. Give me a good cheeseburger. I threw this movie on, and it was like they forgot the fries and burnt the burger.
No, it's like you know what it is? You know the episode of SpongeBob where they try to kill the health inspector with a bad Krabby Patty?
Oh, God, that's exactly it.
It's like that. The sock sticking out of it, a fucking eyeball smushed in there.
I couldn't.
It's so atrocious.
There was so many bad parts in the acting was awful.
The acting's awful. The special effects where they try to make The Rock not The Rock, where he's not jacked but he just looks like a normal dude, is really fucking jarring and bizarre looking.
Dude.
Like, I couldn't take it seriously.
I didn't. I got halfway through. I fell asleep with this thing running on, and I woke up to, like, the telltale end of it.
Yeah.
Can't remember exactly how it is, but enough to, like, when I woke up, I was like, I can't believe this is still running, and, like, this is the ending of this.
Should we say spoilers for Black Adam real quick? If you haven't seen it, you can skip to the next section, I guess.
If you haven't seen it, yeah. If you haven't seen,
if you want to see it, yeah.
Because you're gonna inform me. I'm telling you, I got halfway through this thing and passed out. So I don't.
So at what point did you fall asleep?
Dude, I couldn't tell you. It's like, so they. I didn't know who was good and bad, which I think is a really big problem with this thing. Like, the good guys are trying to stop Black Adam, I think.
It's weird because of the way the fucking Rock wanted this movie to be, because Black Adam inherently as a comic book character is a villain. Like, he's Shazam's arch nemesis, basically.
Yes, and that's how they were, like, trying to do this thing, but they were also like, we're going to make him good in this, like, vacuum.
Yeah, they do the thing with the superhero movies now where it just, they don't go all in. They don't put all the cards on the table where they say, oh, we're gonna have an anti-hero, like he's gonna kill people, but it's like, okay, but he's still a good guy.
Like, he was at some kid's house that revived him, and they're like hanging out, and he's like trying to develop a connection.
Yeah, it's like almost kind of like a Terminator, John Connor Terminator sort of relationship they're going for, except it's really stilted and just it doesn't develop anywhere.
Everything that they talked about Black Adam. So, like, I don't know if we have to get into spoil. Like, all right, so we'll say spoilers.
I kind of want to mention something specific.
I was about to say we'll say spoilers, I guess, if there is one, but I don't have any spoilers. I'm just really, I got so like I think I got confused to the point I fell asleep because like they were like everything they said was he's bad. So the beginning of the film, like they're part of a heist trying to find something. And they end up finding him, right?
Yeah, it's weird because like the first half of the movie is like him waking up because of something that happens in his tomb,
right?
And then the Society of Justice or whatever, the Hawk guy and fucking
who are the good
Pierce Brosnan
guys, right?
Yeah, they're like the good guys.
But
they're
they
like,
do like the really mysterious overtone of being bad.
Well, it's weird because they're like kind of the antagonist of the movie from Black Adam's perspective, but they're trying to say that Black Adam's a bad guy, even though he only kills other bad guys that are worse than him. Like, it's weird. There's like a kind of struggle of ethics there going on, but it doesn't really get any deep with it. And then the second half of the movie is like him trying to fight this demon guy who gets the ultimate power and has like the power of Shazam, but he's like the evil Shazam or something. Like, it's weird. And there's something I want to talk about real quick that's a spoiler. And
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you've gotten to that point in the movie yet. But
dude, I'm not watching this. Like, this, they got as much out of me as I'm going to give them.
Okay.
If it turns into something where it gets recommended or someone's like, can we please talk? You just need to see it. Like, on the maybe.
I think we're talking about it enough, but there's one thing I want to mention. So there's kind of a twist to the movie in that the whole time you're getting like these flashbacks of Black Adam with his son, and they try to make it seem like the son character grows up to be the Rock's character, Black Adam,
right?
Whereas later in the movie it's revealed that the Rock is that kid's dad back in the day, and the Rock is like, you know, that's when he's like in his weird skinny kind of like CGI, almost like Chris Evans Captain America 1, where he's like in the skinny body sort of thing. It's like, it's kind of like that. So Dwayne Johnson's the dad character, and then he has the son, and then the son gets the power of Shazam, and he becomes a buff adult, kind of like, you know, Zachary Levi in the Shazam movie. And then the kid has to protect his family, and the mom's already dead at this point. Like, they got the mom, but he goes to like protect the dad, and to protect Dwayne Johnson, essentially, he gives him the power of Shazam. So he like holds him by the shoulders and goes Shazam, and then he transfers the power over to the Rock. So then the Rock becomes like his buff usual self with like the superhero physique, and then the kid turns into the kid again. As soon as the kid turns into the kid, he's like smiling at him, and like it's all like this kind of somber, heartfelt moment, and then out of nowhere this arrow comes and goes and hits the kid in the shoulder. And the whole time, The Rock is narrating this scene like he's telling another character what's happening, and he's like, "Yeah, but I couldn't save my son," and it just like comes out of nowhere, like really comically from like the ceiling. There's like assassins in the ceiling or whatever, and The Rock kneels down next to his son who's got an arrow in him. He's like, "No," and it's like, "I will avenge you." It's like super fucking corny and funny.
I might have saw that, but I couldn't tell you.
I laughed so hard when that scene happened. Like, the arrow just straight up comes out of nowhere.
It sounds like a satire.
It feels like it's feels like it's a parody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they're kind of like
it feels like it's so goofily handled, and I can't take anything seriously.
This whole movie was goofily handled. It was ludicrous.
But the weird thing is, it takes itself so seriously that it doesn't add up. It doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't. It is so bad, and like it astonishes me that Dwayne Johnson asked for this thing to be changed because he fucking mailed this in so bad.
Yeah, he's not even trying.
He's not even trying.
He's not even like his weird charismatic like, "Oh, I will save the day and help you out, little lady." Like it's not like he's his usual like charming rock self. Even though he plays the same character in every movie, he's like literally a wooden block in this film.
Oh yeah. Well, that's doing wooden blocks a disservice. I mean,
yeah, Plank from Ed, Edd and Eddy had more personality.
Oh, it was. I remember watching this. I was like, I don't even know why I still have this on. Like it got to the point of curiosity because, like I said, there's a lot of themes that clash, and I've never been a fan of the story from the bad guy's side, but have him be the good guy to take the good guys out that you're making the bad guys.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's like, okay, the next movie, Black Adam's probably gonna be worse unless we're like getting into like if Terminator 3. I mean that came out and it was ultimately shitty, but like if Terminator 2 kind of kept up with that theme of, you know, we're gonna keep progressing this guy to being a good guy, like maybe, but. Yeah, this was just a steaming pile of shit.
Yeah, and then they try to set it up with the superhero Henry Cavill cameo because The Rock wanted to fight Henry Cavill's Superman. We've talked about this before. Oh, yeah, I know. But now that you've seen at least part of the movie, we have a little bit of context to it. It doesn't make sense
to me. Like I don't get any.
No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because he was supposed to fight Shazam, and then The Rock was like, "No, Shazam's not cool enough."
Well, he took over Shazam in his own form. It sounds like
he did.
Like Shazam's not even in this universe.
No, it's like he wanted them to be so separate because he thought that Black Adam was going to be leagues above it, and then it underperformed. And then James Gunn came along and said, "Fuck you, fuck that, you're out of here."
I don't blame him too because James Gunn knows what he's doing.
Is that a good segue?
I think maybe it is.
It could be.
Yeah, we could try it.
Yeah, we could try it. I had another kind of like news thing to talk about.
Let's do it, and then I'll come back to that same segue.
All right.
No matter how we end it, I'll just say, and James Gunn knows what he's doing.
Well, I'm gonna segue back to our last episode where you announced that you're having a baby.
Yes.
So congratulations! I can't wait for you to give birth.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I've already put on the weight for it. I'd really be pumped out if I got this out of me through one shot.
Yeah. Well, speaking of having babies, did you read about Robert De Niro and Al Pacino?
No, dude. Okay. So I don't want to get into like how disgusting it is, and I'm not talking about like physicality. There's two trains of thoughts that run through my head because like I saw De Niro and I was like, oh, I guess you can still pump him out at that age, right? And I'm guessing he did. I don't know if they did something like in vitro or something like that where the chick. There's two trains of thoughts. One is that they got with this gal, they want to carry on the genes, even though it's like the 9th or 10th kid from both these guys. Like, you know, are they just racking up estate tickets, you know, just to get some money? The other weird, groomy, disgusting fucking thing of it is that like you've got these 24-year-old girls that are with 80-year-olds. God knows what these guys are doing. If this is all like, you know, and I don't want to speculate, but like, you know.
So I know for sure that Al Pacino's girlfriend, air quotes, is 29 years old, and he's, I think, 82.
Yes. Or
something like that. And then Robert De Niro's basically the same age. He's like he's like 79, 80, and he got a girl pregnant, and they're both 80 years old. My line of thinking with it is they're gonna be dead when that kid's 18. So like, they're not gonna have a dad.
They're gonna be dead when that kid's like 4.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
It's like it's super irresponsible. Is like the biggest thing that I think I can coax from it. Is that you shouldn't be having kids when you're that old because that kid's not going to grow up to have a dad. Like,
agreed.
Yeah, that kid's not going to have any sort of parental guidance in their life other than like the mom, and who knows what they're like if they're sleeping with 80-year-olds getting pregnant.
Well, so here's my. This is how it's not everything, but like when you just look at things like this happening, like the first one to me is like, all right, was this planned or not planned? So if it was planned,
I'm guessing not. I read about Al Pacino and it said that he didn't think that he could get people pregnant because he was so old. But it's like, well, you thought wrong.
So, you know, like I don't know. The PR stuff, it's just creepy. Like, creepy and irresponsible. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and listen, and I can imagine people just, shouting at the fucking ceilings at me. If you're that old and you're hooking up with gorgeous women, like, great. Happy that that's happening for you, but it's like, just be smart about it or plan ahead. It's like, one, thinking of the kid, but two, like, think of that chick. I mean, there's so many different parties here that are at risk, and then you got these two guys that are like high-fiving each other because they got another one on the way. Like, still got it. Like, I don't know.
One foot in the grave, the other the cradle. I guess.
If it's not planned, like, all I'm saying is that I hope everything was over a dinner. They had a nice night out, and that it was
it was their anniversary.
Yeah, and then you just wake up. It's like, oh, can you believe that? It's like, well, how about it? You know, it's everything. Everything about this just screams not good and PR cover up.
Well, there's another line of thinking too that it could very well not actually be their kids, but then the women are saying that it is so that they can. Obviously cash in. I mean, if you're 29 years old and you're dating Al Pacino, I don't think you're with him for his looks,
No, that's what I'm saying. So, like, if you're like, I'm gonna get this kid knocked up or I'm gonna get knocked up to get this kid, like, now I'm in the will, so I get a piece of the estate. And then you got 10 of those things. Well, you cut 500 million 10 ways, still a nice check.
Yeah.
So, like, all of it. And that's what, so I'm not going to even go on that side because the other aspect could be, gold diggers.
Yeah.
So all of it is just, it's not intact. I'll just say that.
Hollywood relationships in general are so kind of weird to me. Like, some of them are pretty normal, like Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz. Like, they've been married for so long.
Yeah.
But then you've got others like that, or like Nick Cannon, who, like, has 12 kids with like 11 different moms or something like that.
Can afford it.
I guess, man. He doesn't even remember all their names, and he names them such wacky shit like Moonstruck or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a whole different world for me. I'm totally detached from it.
It's not your vibe.
It's not relatable to me in any way, shape, or form.
Right. I've always thought, and I used to say it about, band and stuff, like, it's an incest pool because you're hanging out with those people so much. Like, I used to say band, like, everyone in high school everyone in band dated someone from band. It's because you're around them so much. I mean, 2/3 of the year you're getting to know someone. And I think Hollywood's the same way. Like, sometimes, like, you hear about, like, some steamy scenes going on. It's like, I could imagine whoever got top bill was requesting, can you get this actress or could you get so and so? Like, sometimes I'm like always thinking, like, I wonder if they wanted them in this movie just to see him naked.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just one of those things where, and they're so fucking full of themselves. It's like, who cares what happens? I just ask for forgiveness. So, and I don't want to sit here, and if anyone from Hollywood's listening, sorry if we.
I hope they are.
Your feathers.
I hope they are. That'd be sick. Oscar Isaac, if you're listening, call me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
We'll make a deal.
Please
we'll make a deal for
out.
the podcast. Please help me out. Speaking of helping, the whole time I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I wanted to help Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
Because that movie makes me care about a CGI raccoon. And we're going to talk about it, baby.
Yes.
So, I will get the road if
you
want to tackle this.
I got this one. All right.
Epic.
Sweet. So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We're in it, people. Spoilers ahead. Or do you do that after I do all this stuff?
You can just say spoilers now.
All right, we'll say spoilers now. Spoilers. Written and directed by James Gunn, starring Chris Pratt as Peter Quill.
You okay?
No, because Gamora keeps calling him Quinn.
Oh, that's right.
The first time she goes,
you were just making a reference.
I got it, Quinn. Quill. Yeah, whatever. And then she calls him Quinn again. And he looks at her. He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Are you doing this on purpose? Bradley Cooper as Rocket. Dave Bautista as Drax. Vin Diesel as Groot. Karen Gillan as Nebula. Palm Clementif as Mantis. And Chiquiti Iwuji as the High Evolutionary.
Yes.
So this movie, does it start out with Rocket's already kind of...
Rocket's walking through the nowhere planet that they're on, because that's their kind of home base now, and he's listening to an acoustic version of Radiohead, Creep. Yep.
And he's kind of... Oh my God, I can't remember if he's got the flashbacks now. Anyway, he's walking through and you're kind of getting to see the gist of Nowhere and that they're setting up headquarters on Nowhere. And he's listening to it and he's kind of seeing what the crew members are up to. And he sees Quill's drunk and, he's got to take care of him. And there's a little bit of a flashback in there showing how Rocket not necessarily became Rocket, but got selected for Rocket. And anyways, Adam Warlock. Right? Mm-hmm. Is that okay? Comes in just out of nowhere and starts wrecking havoc and strikes Rocket. Rocket gets badly injured. It's a life or death scenario, and the Guardians are tasked to save Rocket's life and go down the path of discovering who Rocket really is and what the High Evolutionary is capable of doing. So that's it. And all the meanwhile, Peter Quill is trying to win back Gamora, and the team members are slowly discovering out kind of what their purpose is within the Guardians group.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a very good summation. That was really nice.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'd give you a hug, but then I don't want to take my headphones off.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's all right. We're right here. Air hug works.
Air hug, yes.
There we go. That was tight.
I was very pleasantly surprised at how much I like this movie, and I think it's probably the best one in my opinion since the new Spider-Man. Not Across the Spider-Verse, but No Way Home. I think that it's
okay
in terms of like the MCU.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the better ones that have come out.
I have the same opinion. I actually think this might be, well, in my opinion, I think this might be the best written one. I think this is number one.
I think I can agree with that.
Number one for me in terms of one, scope, because of how many different characters there are. But there are several times I got dusty in the theater, which it's kind of hard to do with the MCU.
The MCU has trouble getting to those emotional punches sometimes, but then other times they really hit it. Like with No Way Home, there's a scene in that really can get to you if you are attached to the characters. This one obviously has a lot to do with Rocket and his upbringing and the emotionality of that.
There's a couple different factors in here. I mean, one, you've got, so Rocket's story, origin story comes through, which is very touching, and they do a great job of making it sentimental, and you really get to see the pain and hardship that Rocket's had. But also between Gamora and Quill.
Yeah. It picks up that story from Endgame where Gamora, obviously if you're watching Guardians 3, you know what happens in that movie.
We don't. There's things that happen.
We can tiptoe around it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just playing. We're talking about this one, so I don't want to give too much away about other things.
Gotcha. Needless to say, Quill is in a grieving process of sorts.
Yes, and it's 100%. But it's
But it's a unique situation that like the person's still there, but they're not.
You could
there.
just leave. It's like she had amnesia. It's 51st Dates.
Yeah.
Except he doesn't.
She's Drew Barrymore.
He doesn't have a chance to. He doesn't have the chance to really ignite what they had before.
Yeah.
And he's struggling with that. Mm-hmm. And you can tell, he's getting drunk at the beginning of the movie, and you kind of, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, he was a little rough around the edges. So you don't really know why he's doing it, and you've had, so the not issue I had, but you've already had Thor Love and Thunder come out.
Yeah.
And he, in that one, kind of hinted to have accepted what's happened. So I wasn't really prepped for this. And now that, she's back. Could you imagine? Like, I told Jasmine, I was like, there was a scene where they're talking, and it's one of those things where you're just like, you're sitting there staring at the person and you're just being like, I don't understand why this can't change. Like we like to be that close to something and never have, and that like one, that's the one passion that he had, the one love that he had, being able to physically touch and see her and not have it there. Like I can
it almost would have been better if she was just gone completely.
Yes, because then you're just living.
Then you can
the
actually
memories.
like work on moving on and being at peace with it. Whereas like you look at the person being there and you know they're there, but it's like you can't do anything about it.
Hard. It is so like those conversations that have to happen, you know.
And I like the way they handled it in this movie. I think they did a good job of
not
really. They didn't really subvert your expectations, but it felt like a natural character progression for what the characters had been through. Like it made sense. Like if they had made it where, oh, it's a happy ending and they get together and they fall in love all over again. It's like, yeah, but how do they do that? And would they be able to do that in a way that would feel earned and make sense from where the other characters have been and what they've been through?
I think the biggest theme I took away from this one was acceptance over things that you can't control. And that's part of the hero's journey that it's so crazy because all of them go through it.
Yeah, even the villain, because his whole motivation is he's trying to create a perfect world, and you can't really do that because as we see with this movie, Earth 2 it has a ton of problems just like regular Earth.
Yes.
And it's out of his control.
A walrus selling meth to some penguins? That's your idea of a perfect world? Dude, I was dying. Like they're going through this planet and it's got such a happy song on.
Yeah.
And then they look over in the car and that's just going and they both kind of stare at each other.
Yeah, there's just a mugging happening between like these anthropomorphic creatures.
No, it wasn't a mug. He was selling them. Well, there might have been a mugging too, but there was one they were selling drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I was dying laughing because the song's still playing and they like kind of look at each other like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, but the whole time the villain is trying to control what kind of world he wants to make and everything around it. And
yes.
The more he tries to control it, the more problems he has. The more out of his control it ends up being.
Yes,
because obviously what he's doing is fucked up.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, but. To kind of add to your point, like control is a very big theme of this movie, and it's kind of hinted at the song that Rocket listens to at the beginning, the acoustic Creep version, where like I want a perfect body, I want a perfect soul, I want to have control. Like
yes,
it's almost like a really good use of foreshadowing with that song being included. Plus, it's just a good song. I've just been listening to it for like the past few weeks.
I used to have that on my iTunes, so as soon as that came on, I was like, oh yeah, it's one of those songs too where. I like the not the chorus, the rhythm, the beat, the instrumental aspect of it. Never having like really listened to the lyrics, and I remember a couple of years ago I finally listened to them, and I was like, oh, I don't know what to make of this song now because this is obviously someone that's not really comfortable with being who they are.
Yeah,
and but it fits into the movie.
It does.
And it's all of those characters aren't really, they are and they aren't because they don't know where they stand.
Well, even like the previous movies, Rocket Raccoon is constantly saying how, don't call me a raccoon. I'm not a raccoon. Stop calling me a raccoon. Like he doesn't acknowledge who he is or what he is. And then finally that arc is complete by the end of this movie where he finally does say like, I'm Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
Which is a very like kind of cheesy moment, but it's also like, over the course of all these movies, it feels earned in a way, so I give it kind of a pass, you know?
I was fine. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to... That was... None of this... None of this to me felt cheesy, and I think, especially in these types of films, it's incredibly hard to have something come across as genuine and sentimental.
Yes. Especially when you've got wacky space shit going on.
It's wacky spaceship, and the stakes are always so high, which is another thing that I thought this thing did a great job which is why I liked it as well, is it took the Guardians of the Galaxy and made them the Guardians of the Galaxy. It wasn't someone's going to crash into the sun number 10 and destroy the whole fucking black hole that we all live in. No, it was a guy, they're trying to save Rocket, and then they found out this guy's creating these planets that he's populating with these people that are, things that are actually living and just destroying them to create the perfect world. So it wasn't like... The stakes were only so high for that world. It wasn't for everyone's world.
Yeah.
And which is kind of like what I'd envisioned them doing, because that's kind of always been their plight, is that they're plucky and they go across and they help out other beings. And it's kind of like that contrast of the characters and what they've done in their past versus grouping together and being better for the future, if you will. So,
yeah, and that's something we've kind of complained about with previous movies where like you don't get a good sense of the scale for things, and then you just can't attach yourself to what's happening in the movie,
right,
or the characters in it. Whereas this one, it has no issue doing that. It keeps the stakes relatively realistic for what they're going through. And I think above all else, the biggest reason why I really like this movie compared to most MCU films is that it just feels stylistic. It has a style to it that I think is unique enough, but still fits into that MCU mold.
Yes.
To where it differentiates itself to the point where, oh, wow, this is unique. This is cool. Like the way they film the action scenes, or like the music choices, the different sort of aesthetics and the humor going on. There's like a little bit of almost edgier humor to it that you don't really get in other MCU movies. Like it just feels so above all the other ones for me in terms of like the style, you know?
I couldn't agree more. And I'm just like thinking about it too. The one thing that Marvel's done versus DC is they've leaned into the personality of the characters or the group of characters. Like Iron Man, Tony Stark, Robert Downey does a great job of portraying Tony Stark, right?
Yeah, that is a Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. movie.
Right. Chris Evans, right?
Yeah. Captain America
does a great job of kind of like nailing Captain America's personality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even
he embodies it.
Exactly. Even if it's not a great personality, he's believable enough as Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the Guardians, James Gunn had a vibe or a feel for how he wanted them to be or how he had interpreted that group of characters, and he does a great job of giving them distinct personalities but yet fitting within the mold of a team.
Well, you get a good sense that he cares deeply about the characters in the world that he creates. I mean, you watch all the Ant-Man movies. Do you have the thought ever that Peyton Reed gives a shit about Ant-Man while he's making those movies?
That's what I agree. Yes, I don't think he does.
Yeah.
Like I don't think, and I like Scott Lang, I can't. No, I'm just.
Oh, Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. I'm sitting there. I'm like, just Scott Lang. Paul Rudd does a good job of trying to be like, a down on his luck con man that stumbles into, having to do right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it doesn't always ring through, and the style of the movies always come across as kind of kiddish.
Yeah.
Even Quantumania, I've seen a couple times now because I just throw it on, just to have it on. I'm like, it never comes across as being like, I don't exactly know how that kind of style would go or fit, but it always comes across as more geared towards like younger audiences. Whereas this one, I don't think it comes across. You obviously have to be old, 13, I think, to see this one. Like you have to kind of get emotionally invested. Like you have to understand those relationships.
Yeah.
But like you could be 40 and still watch this one and still have like some emotional, conflictions going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where in some of those films, like I said, Ant-Man, not as much. Thor, like YTT, right?
Yeah, Taika Waititi.
Yeah, Waititi.
Waititi.
Yeah, I like that one even better. With Ragnarok, does a great job.
Yeah, with Ragnarok.
And then I think Love and Thunder, he tried to take it to that next level.
I think he just overshot it.
Yes. Like
severely.
He was like, all right, we're going to really invest with the wacky, zany stuff. But he went more so with like his own kind of personality than with what Thor would have been like.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like it was too much Waititi than it was Thor.
Yeah.
So I think we're seeing some of the stuff come back with the MCU. And I'm personally just gonna say I think the first 4 levels of this stuff, everyone really hit that embodiment of the superhero that they were portraying, and we're having a hard time coming back to us. However, I will say this one, if it's signs of things to come, I'll watch another film.
Yeah.
Like I think that James Gunn is just a fucking master at his craft.
No, yeah, it's almost kind of weird how this movie wouldn't have happened if Disney didn't hire him back. Because I'm wondering how much of that had to do with him doing Suicide Squad, them seeing how much he cared about the characters in that movie probably, and like put a style to that movie and said, shit, we need to get James Gunn back. I can only speculate because I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just kind of running through the storylines in my head of like, all right, what... At the end of the day, what do you think brought him in? Usually it's money.
Money, yeah. And the fact that there were so many other actors involved with the project that were going to quit if James Gunn wasn't hired back. Specifically Batista. He was like super vocal about it. He's like, I'm not playing Drax anymore unless you get James Gunn to at least write the movie.
Yes. And that's... yeah, if you see that sort of support too, it's kind of hard to be like, so you have the smear campaigns that come out or whatever on his name with what he did, right? And he was like, you know, whatever, this was a long time ago, blah, 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 whatever, you know. So if you don't have that support, those smear campaigns tend to hold up because people don't defend you in the media.
Yeah.
Now, he must be either a great guy, a great writer, or just good at what he does, that he earned the respect and the support from those cast members.
Yeah.
Because like Batista stood right up, and I'm guessing a couple other ones did too. And you never know. I mean, they could be like, shit, man, that dude's really fucking good. I mean, who cares what he said? Let's just go out and make this film. Or they're like, hey, like, you know, he's a great director. He's a great leader. We'll follow him into battle, and he does such a great job with these things, and he makes it so easy to be on. Like, I mean, could you imagine being on this film and having another director and doing like 4 different shots when he's like, nope, one's good.
Yeah.
Like, it would drive everyone fucking nuts.
They probably, yeah, they had a lot of respect for him, obviously, because like every main actor signed the letter to Disney and Marvel saying, we would really like James Gunn. But I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Right,
like, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was basically saying, like,
spoilers.
You need to get James Gunn back. What do you think about the weird kind of criticism this movie and James Gunn is getting specifically about him including his family members in his movies, like his brother who plays Kraglin, Sean Gunn? He's the guy with the fin, with the...
Oh, that's his brother?
Yeah, that's his brother. And then I think his wife is in the movie. She's the red chick that they hold hostage for.
Really?
In that, like, second act of the movie.
Oh.
There's, like, a weird amount of criticism that he's getting for including his family members. And it's like, one, he's done this with every single one of his movies. Like, he's had the same people in all of his movies. Like, I'm pretty sure Michael Rooker has been in every single one of James Gunn's movies in some way.
Yes.
And two, Hollywood just does that all the time anyway. Like, why is it James Gunn specifically that people are targeting for this? Is it like the Snyder fans that are coming out because they don't like he's taking over DC? Like, what's going on?
I think it's more in line with I think it's more in line when you have a hard time finding criticism with something, you nitpick. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm trying to think. There's been a couple movies that, like, you know, they're 99% on Rotten Tomatoes when clearly they should have been 100, and out of every review, one gives them a negative review. They just do it to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of this effect, because you'd have to look it up. If they don't have that shit in the second Guardians, because I know that the Finn guy, I don't even know his name.
Sean Gunn, Kraglin, he was in that one.
Yeah, and
he's been in all Guardians movies.
That's what I'm saying. So, and I guess in the first one he didn't have like a huge role in it, like a couple speaking lines. Like this one, he actually had a prominent role. Mm. In the second one, I think he had somewhat of a prominent role, like playing next to Michael Rooker. Yeah, like I remember him being in the second one. I don't remember really much of the second one. So yeah, if they didn't bitch about it, him in the second one and his wife in the second one, then fuck them. Like they're just doing it to do it.
It's such a weird angle to criticize
the movie.
It's called
negging, is what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the new lingo? I'm not up to the Zoomer
negging
terms.
Is a psychological thing. Like when you try to like take control. And I don't want to say take control of someone, but like you find a fault in someone, so they desperately seek your approval. And what ends up happening is that you just keep nitpicking at it, so they keep doing like more and more things to be like, you know, please accept me. Yeah. And then you kind of get them into this thing where now all of a sudden you can do other, you know, it's supposed to be like a flirting tactic. Anyways,
so they're flirting with James Gunn.
No, they're negging him, so he's coming out and he's got to TMZ will come out, they'll say some shit like this, right? James Gunn's now got to come back out and say, no, this is why I did it, right? And then they go, oh, so now it's about this. He goes, no, I know that you said that. Like, so it just turns into this thing where I bet you, like, Wall Street isn't fucking coming out and being like, can you believe James Gunn's family members are in this film? It's probably, like, fucking, like, low-level, like, tabloids that are saying this stuff.
It's, like, weird people on Twitter and, like, online forums that have, like... they had an issue with James Gunn already because of something, you know.
Well,
so they have to find. Well, what he said, or like I said, it could be Snyder fans who are sad that he took over DC and not Zack Snyder. which they exist. I've seen them before.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even like, will you find something else if you're a Snyder elite? Like you know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm not disagreeing with you. It's definitely sad.
It's it blows my mind. Like that. Also, I will say this. You know, you got a really good movie if they're nitpicking. Like the only thing they can find, like you walk out of the theaters like it was all right, but can you believe that?
Yeah.
Like if that's the one fucking like criticism you got, like you made a decent film.
It's such a weird angle to criticize it, but yeah, no, like just kind of jumping back into the movie itself, I guess. Yeah, no, it made me want to go back and rewatch the other Guardian movies. Just because like I like the characters and where they go. I like the fact that they keep all the same characters, but still like they introduce new ones. They have a good dynamic. It doesn't feel like any of the characters are really like shoehorned in, at least to me.
No, agreed.
And I think that it does a really good job with those dynamics.
I definitely agree with that. I think I just have a hard time with that second one.
The second Guardians movie?
Yeah.
I do too. It's my least favorite.
That's what I'm like. I have such a hard time with it. And I think they try to give a little bit of Quill's origin story, if I'm not mistaken, with his dad, Ego. And it turns out, or is it Ego?
Yeah.
And he's got a bigger, like, but is he taking over the universe in that thing too? Like, isn't he like supposed to be like almost God?
Yeah, because Ego basically, he like, he plants his seed on other planets, and then he'll activate something, and then he'll be able to take over those planets,
right,
or whatever. Like, it's something weird.
That's what. So,
and then he tries to get Quill to join him, and then Quill's like, "No, that's evil," and then he,
and that's
deals
why
with it.
I like. It's like one, you have the origin story, and two, the stakes are too high.
Yeah.
Like I really like this one, and like the one example that I kept thinking of, it reminds me of Rogue One. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not.
I have not.
It fits into the Star Wars franchise, but it's just a little event that happens. It's kind of like the insinuating.
Like the igniting event.
Yeah, exactly. For at least like what came out in the 70s. So, but in terms of like grand scope, it's not. It would be in a history book, but it'd have like 4 pages. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it helps that they keep the mission of the movie clear and consistent throughout the entire thing. I mean, the whole movie they're spent trying to save Rocket, and they don't really deviate from that goal. Like there's things that branch out and happen,
exactly,
but the goal is the same throughout,
right? And
I think that really helps it. It keeps it consistent, and it doesn't feel like it's messy.
No, it does. And they're discovering, and it's leading them down a path to where they go. And the reason why Rocket's hurt is because this guy came back and wanted to get him. So you know that they're eventually going to cross paths. Mm-hmm. You know, so it does set it up, but the Guardians don't really know that that's what's going on.
Yeah,
which makes it fun. I think the only gripe I had was how long Rocket was dying.
Yeah,
they're like, we got 48 hours, and I think 5 or 6 times, like, Peter Quill's like, let's go save Rocket.
Yeah,
you know, it's like they're back.
I could see that as like kind of a repetitive structure of the movie, but at the same time, I do appreciate the flashback scenes also.
Yes, those are good.
Those are good.
Those are touching,
and I really like the guy who played the villain, the high evolutionary.
That is so funny. I was not.
Really? That's funny because one of my coworkers said the same thing. I don't know if it's just me, but I really like how different he feels from other MCU movies where like he's kind of like just a mustache twirling villain essentially, yes, but also he's just batshit crazy and he just screams the whole time. And I don't know.
That's what I didn't like.
See, I kind of like that was like that because they don't try to give you like any sympathetic angle with it. They don't try to make you feel bad for him like Kang with Ant-Man or anything, or Thanos. Like, he's just a villain and he's just evil as fuck and they have to kill him.
Right.
Like,
that's why I guess why it seems like, pardon the pun, overkill.
Nice. That was an 8 out of 10 at least.
Let's go. That's rewatched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go. I.
Yeah. No, but I was just saying, like,
I'm a little different.
Yeah.
On that,
and that's okay. You know, we're all a little different.
That's fine.
And that's all right. Everybody, this is Mac's last appearance on the show. Thank you for joining. But yeah, other than I guess that, I think everything else about it, I just really like.
I have a hard time with guys that just are screaming. I've met some crazy people. I've never run into people that are just that passionate where they're always yelling. But on a flip side that you just made me think of was this is probably the most humanistic villain we've seen. You know, like Kong wasn't like that, right? Like he never yelled, he never got upset. Thanos never screamed. Like none of the villains, like every time they're always so fucking stone cold.
Yeah.
Where you could see this guy kind of losing some of the wiring.
Yeah.
You know, which I will say I like that better because it even gives a better feel to this thing being more
emotionally driven,
grounded.
Yes.
I was gonna say, yeah, and in the same token, yeah, because it's not like Thanos. Like, well, one, I mean, it's Thanos, so you're just staring at him, but like how he acts, like it's like so sociopaths are always different, you know. But it takes you away. Like you're like, all right, I am definitely on another planet. Where with this one, with the way the guy was acting, with that some of that anger and raw emotion that he had going on, it definitely keeps it a little bit more grounded. Where you're not like, all right, the universe is going to cave in on itself.
Yeah. Well, it also helps too that they have like a personal stake with that character specifically with Rocket's history. Whereas like a lot of other villains are like they just come out of nowhere and they're evil and they have to be stopped. Like I don't know, Kang, like I guess he had a history with Michelle Pfeiffer a little bit in that movie, but other than that, like Paul Rudd, he couldn't give a fuck who Kang was before that. Like they had no personal beef. Whereas like this movie, it's like there's a history there, and I think that helps. I think that helps me like the villain in relation to the characters a little bit more. Whereas like I can kind of see what you're saying, where like just the one note screaming, you know, psychotic villain that can get a little old. I didn't really have too much of an issue with it. But.
I don't. This guy wasn't like one note, but it just kind of it got to a point where I was like, all right, he's just doing a lot of yelling.
Yeah,
and I just don't know people that just are like that. So, not to say it took me out of the film. I just thought it was a little over the top.
Yeah, there was a weird kind of. Not expectation, but I almost kind of prepared myself for Rocket's character dying. Because
same.
I had seen like some reviews here and they're just like passing through the pages of the internet and like people are posting about Rocket and like talking about him in this movie. I'm like, oh great, he's gonna die. Like I'm preparing myself and I know that that's gonna come. And so when he doesn't die, it's very not surprising, but I'm like, oh, they don't do that. They don't do what I thought they were for sure going to do, and that's kind of I don't want to say pleasant, but like. I don't know. It's unexpected in a way for me just because of like my expectations of how this movie was being reviewed and talked about, you know?
Yeah, that's why I stay away from that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I try to too, but sometimes it just pops up.
Right. I don't want to say, so I guess when I say I was prepped for Rocket dying, it was more so of like they did this in another one of the MCU films, you know, and on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. I was just kind of like, it got to a point where I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't even know if I'm ready for it if it does happen.
Yeah.
You know, like if that thing, there's one thing that I've seen is that when the raw emotion does pop out and the actors convey it really well. Chris Pratt, I thought when that whole
this is like the most emotional I think he's been in a movie.
Actually, like good acting.
Like it's decent.
Yeah, like it's a lot of it. You know, I mean, he gets into some believable parts.
Yeah,
like, and especially at that point, it was like, oh shit.
He does a really good job playing Peter Quill, and it's like movies like this and scenes like that kind of make me separate him from actors like The Rock or Ryan Reynolds, where they're just playing the same character. Or Mark Wahlberg. I
like Ryan Reynolds, though. Mark Wahlberg's
he's good at what he does, I will say that.
I was about to say. And he does it, and he knows he's not... Yeah, anyways.
He knows he's got his fans.
There's a difference between Ryan Reynolds and The Rock, and like one of them having some self-awareness.
Yes.
That's what I will say.
But my point being is that Chris Pratt in this movie, I think, he sets himself so far apart from that still.
Right.
Where I have to sit back and go like, that was good.
It was good. I mean, there was some... scenes of this where I mean you can see it in his eyes, you know, and I know a lot of acting, it's a lot about all that stuff and you know what comes across, but there are times where it's pretty and I could relate, you know. I've seen some of that pain before, and like that just what he's kind of talking about and what he was going through, you know, and like I was like, damn, like it's pretty good.
Yeah, and I liked Bradley Cooper's voice acting for Rocket in this movie. I think he did a good job. And of course, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Vin Diesel. You know, he killed it again as Groot,
always.
Where he just says, "I am Groot." You know? And then he says something else towards the end, which I won't say.
Yeah,
but, you know, watch it for yourself and experience the Vin Diesel love.
As the song, like it was a great song very at the greasy end. Yeah, it was a fun time, and they really hit every spectrum on the emotional board.
Yeah,
you know.
I guess we can kind of wrap up. Was there anything else we wanted to say about Guardians 3?
I mean, not really. I'm trying to think, like, some of the negatives that I was trying to take away. I didn't have too many. I mean, I really...
No, I didn't really either.
Like, this in John Wick Chapter 4 really surprised me. It used to be a joke that sequels were always bad and they're the lesser of the first one.
Yeah.
And these a couple of these movies that have come out have really fucking said fuck that trope. You know?
They've really they kind of set themselves apart from that sequel curse.
Yes,
which is nice and refreshing, and I feel like that's happening a little bit more often now because it feels like there's more consistency between sequels and the people who make them. Like, you'd get a hit movie and then like 4 years later they realize, oh shit, that movie was a success, let's make another one, and then they get like a different director or like a different writer.
That's the one I was gonna say. Or the guy that they bring back has way too many ideas and they pulls ideas from the first one and crams them into the second one.
Yeah
there's a whole recipe on why they're bad. These couple that have come out have had their own storylines and have already embraced the backstory and really don't try to force feed you what's happened before.
Yeah.
They still do a decent job on, you know, with the exposition. Like, even this one, there's a couple points, but
they each have their own arc and it's earned, but they still carry over elements from previous movies that are important or play a role.
Like, your first time seeing, they always have to do it. If your first time seeing the film, they have to have something come back where they kind of enlighten you on what's going on. Mm-hmm. And the nice one they did with this one is with Quill and Gamora on the planet, and he's just going off on why he's so mad at her and why she can't remember, and he goes through all the events, but it was done in such a way that's, you know, it's how you feel. It wasn't like him looking at a picture and then talking to Rocket and them going like, do you remember this, and like reciting it and then going, oh yeah, and then we did that, and
then they have a hearty laugh.
Yeah,
like, good time.
Yeah, and it's like, that doesn't really, you know,
no,
not in a genuine fashion.
No.
So,
and I'm glad for it.
Yeah.
We can get into ratings. I can go first.
Yeah, because you're probably gonna do the road first. All right.
I give this one a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
I think it's great.
That's a good rating by Kyle Yates.
Yeah, really good third entry. I think it's at least on par with the first, maybe slightly better. I really like the first one for how tight it is and how kind of close-knit and introduction of those characters it is, but I like this one really a lot, you know. Oh, yeah. English is failing me right now, but you get what I mean.
Yes, I was about to say. Definitely not said in Russian.
I like this one a lot. It's good, and I think you should watch it.
Dwayne, careful.
He throw in like an Under Armour sponsorship in there or something.
We're not talking about Black Adam. We're forgetting Black Adam. The movie never was
Let's
made.
move on.
So I'm just having flashbacks. No, I gave this a 9 out of 10 as well.
Nice.
Like I said, I think this is the best written MCU movie that they've had. I also think this one is right up there with Infinity War and Endgame. You know, and I think, honestly, to me, it's probably between Infinity War and this one. I mean, just in terms of how well they're able to keep it in the MCU universe, but not follow that path at all.
Yeah.
You know,
it's very much its own contained thing.
Yes.
And the characters are very much their own contained thing.
Yes.
And it's really all the better for it.
Yes. So 9 out of 10. Thought this was fantastic. I think this is better than the first. I mean, I'd probably go 3, 1, 2 in this, and I've watched one recently.
Yeah, I might be the same.
Like, one is good, but this one is so much better than one. One's a great origin story, or setting up the Guardians.
Yeah, like
you know?
origin story movie.
Yeah. So, and I yes. Yeah.
Setting up that whole new venture of space MCU.
Yeah.
Speaking of space, ain't no way in hell these people are going to space anymore because everything's dead and everything's gone and all the world is desolate for some reason or another.
Yeah.
I'm talking about The Road, directed by John Hillcoat. Oh, I guess it is Hillcoat because it's spelled like coat. So John Hillcoat directed this film. It is an adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's novel that came out in 2006, also titled The Road. It is a post-apocalyptic survival film that stars Viggo Mortensen. You might know him from Lord of the Rings as Aragorn, our boy.
Believe that Strider.
We got Cody Smith-McPhee, who was in Power of the Dog.
He's been in a couple films.
He was also in Elvis for like a hot second.
Yes, he's been in he's got a recognizable face.
He does.
I don't know.
It's almost kind of the same as in this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know if that guy's gonna. It's like he's gotten acting just because he was in this film, but I don't know if he's a great actor.
Yeah. We've got Robert Duvall, Guy Pearce, Charlize Theron.
She's
pretty
Fifth Bill.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's weird. There's a decent cast in this movie.
Yeah. Because they all got 2 minutes.
Yeah. But there's a reason for that. So basically, the summation of this movie is that an apocalyptic event has taken place and the whole world is kind of burnt to an ashy crisp and plant life is gone. There's barely any food. Most of the people that are left are either dying or are cannibals by that point. And this movie follows Viggo Mortensen as the father, and he is with Cody Smith-McPhee, who is the son. And their goal is to cross the country so that they can make it to the coast in the south. And they have to carry the fire with them because they're the good guys.
Yes.
So,
which is a fun
little through line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I read this book.
Did you?
Probably.
Humble brag.
I know, right? Well, it's been a long time, and I hadn't read it since probably like 2011 or something like that, when I was still in high school. And so there's a decent amount that I remember from it because it is one of like the best books that I've read. But it's still, some time had passed, and I had watched this movie before. I watched it, I think, probably like 2012, like a year after I read the book. So like the book was still really fresh in my mind.
That's a good.
And this is one of the more closer adaptations from book to movie that I think I've seen. Whereas like something like Children of Men like is almost kind of like a similar film. There's like a dour kind of depressing aspect to it. The book is very different from the movie, and the movie's better for it. But with a movie like this, I think it really captures the tone of the book and what the book was kind of going for really well. Like the world and the characters and how the atmosphere is almost exactly how I pictured it when I read the book years and years ago.
Yeah. I for everyone listening, I've not read the book. So, yeah, I was about to say something. I'm just not going to go that route.
Okay. You're not going to go down that road?
Nope, not doing it.
All right.
Yeah, so I can only imagine, actually kind of imagine, since I've seen it on screen, that it's close to the book. I've read that.
It is. It really is.
The director really wanted to hold that, the adaptation as close as he could to the book as possible.
Yeah, he wanted it to be faithful in, at the very least, the tone and the atmosphere and the kind of sort of through line that they were going for, which is like you're following this father and son, and they're going through the apocalyptic world of it and just trying to survive. And post-apocalyptic stories are, I think, some of my favorite type of stories. I think I've said that before on the podcast, but there's not a whole lot that I think really captures how bleak or hopeless or very like kind of white knuckle survival it could be, in a world that is realistically portrayed in that way. You get movies like Mad Max, and they're like a post-apocalyptic movie, but they're goofy and they're stylistic.
Yeah,
and they have a tone that's kind of over the top. World War Z is like an apocalyptic movie, not really post-apocalyptic, but you get the same sort of sense with that, where it's like, okay, so zombie survival, like zombies inherently are just a little goofy.
Right.
This one, there's like no goofiness. It's very serious. It's very dour in a lot of what it shows. And I really like that it does that. There are some points in this movie where it can kind of feel too melancholic, I think, where there's just, and maybe it's like a nature of the book itself and like Cormac McCarthy's writing style, but there's some things in the story where there's just a lot of depressing shit in it where it's just for the sake of depressing. At least I feel like it can get into that territory.
I was about to say, I definitely, I think it's tough. And I was thinking about it, watching this thing is, you know, we're also accustomed to systems and government and procedures that post-apocalyptic films are the closest that we could get to our sort of reptilian brains as we possibly can. Mm-hmm. And there's really no way to describe. I mean, you're marching to your death, you know, and it really isn't. There's no signs that anything's coming back to life. So it's really just a story about survival. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Now, I think what makes this one a little bit more, it's tougher to watch is because they strip the animals away. You know, so I mean, there's really no hunting. I mean, it's at the, you know, at least in the caveman era. I mean, you had dinosaurs or fucking whatever to kill. I'm not a historian. Yeah. You know, shit like that.
I'm not a time traveler, Kyle. Yeah. You're asking a lot of me here.
Yeah, I'm not making assumptions. So with this one, it's funny. It's just like you're watching. It's like, well, how do you not? There's so many different things. It's like, what? So you strip a lot of the stimulus away from people, but I guess at the end of the day, I mean, they do take away the food aspect. So that makes it tough. I mean, like, yeah, this whole movie had a very melancholic vibe, and you know, it's almost like the antagonist of the film is just surviving.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where it feels like the setting is a character.
Yes,
and I think that very much comes through in this sort of film.
100%, but it also makes it very tough because it's one of those things where no one here. I mean, unless you're like a POW survivor, you know, like it's very hard to relate.
Well,
to
it's very like, I don't want to say immersive, but it does kind of put you in that world, and the characters are. I mean, the characters are named like the father and the son. Like, they don't have names. Like, they're very much like a vicarious vessel that you can put yourself in and go like, yeah, this is what it would be like if I was in this situation. And I think by nature, post-apocalyptic movies are just kind of like that to some degree, because it shows you like what if. Like, the whole appeal of that genre in a way is like, what would happen if this happened? Right. Like, what would I do if I was put in this scenario?
Yeah, so I mean, it's either like I kill myself or, I mean, we just kind of keep going on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's one or the other. It's a story of survival, and it's survival at the most rudimentary level.
I think where a lot of post-apocalyptic stories can be really good and appeal to you is because they're post-apocalyptic, the event has already happened. You can have so much room to focus on the characters and the situations those characters are in. Whereas... Right. You take a movie like World War Z or Day After Tomorrow.
I won't go World War Z. You could probably take that one out.
But I'm saying like an apocalypse movie versus a post-apocalyptic movie. Yeah, whereas like those movies focus on the disaster itself, right, and then the characters and the story are kind of ancillary to the events that are happening. I'm
just saying like they're involving zombies. So I mean, if you're gonna go the apocalyptic route, I go with like a natural event or something that would be
like Day After Tomorrow.
Is that what's the?
That's the Jake Gyllenhaal.
I watched that on the plane.
The big freeze.
Well, it's not apocalypse. I'm thinking like apocalyptic being like ending of ending. You know, like that one, like society continues on. There's still food. I mean, it's not like everything. Like there's no animals. I mean, everything. You're talking about systems and governments being destroyed, and can be replaced. You know, like this one, I'm. Like the apocalyptic movies or post-apocalyptic movies, I think what drives me into it is more so of how society functions after it, you know? And with this one, it's not necessarily society, it's just the survival of and you could say they're stripped of their identity, right? So it's easier to project. So, you know, that's why I'm like, and this is a very realistic look at what would happen if this were to occur. Not to say depending on the events that happen, because this one you don't really know. They don't,
and that's a big reason why I like this movie and like the story itself. Like even in the book, you don't get a reason why things happen or the apocalypse,
because they don't want you to focus on the how it
exactly.
Right?
And that's kind of what I was trying to get with comparing it to World War Z or Day After Tomorrow, is that like it doesn't focus on the event, it focuses on the after and the characters, and like, all right, we're here now. We just have to make it. I
guess, yeah. Like, the only one that comes to my mind, because I think it was so closely, is the Book of Eli. I don't know if you've seen it.
I did actually a few months ago.
Yeah. Like, that's the closest one I can get to this, where that's another one. I think maybe nukes have gone off. I don't know if they really don't talk about that, but the whole that one's got a different theme in and of itself and what the motivation is.
Oh yeah,
but
different kind of tone too.
Yeah, but like the grittiness of the world and kind of being immersed in that world, but that's kind of the ones I'm thinking about, because I don't know how many post-apocalyptic movies I have that aren't wild and zany.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like this one is probably like the most depressing portrayal, like tooth and nail survival aspect of a post-apocalyptic movie that you can get.
Yeah.
Other than like maybe Walking Dead, but even that has zombies in it. So
like, yeah, I don't really that. So obviously all of this is not in our universe, like if you're going to do the parallel universes, but I don't focus on the zombies at all.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, even that movie, even after that TV show, after a while just becomes about like humans surviving and people being the biggest threat, which I think you really do get in this movie too, like tenfold, that like people are the biggest danger and that society falls. Whoever's left is just going to be like the worst type of person. And that sort of through line is, I want to say, opposed by the sort of sentiment they give the father and son, where they're like, we're the good guys, right? We're carrying the fire, and we have to carry the fire with us because we're the good guys. And I like that that's a consistent theme throughout it, and that it always, at least in the first two aspects of it, it always seems to pop up whenever they do have a fire. Like the kid always asks, like, oh, we're carrying the fire, right? Or like Viggo Mortensen's explaining what that means.
Right.
Which is basically just like the hope that they can make it and that there are other good people out there and that they are still the good guys.
It's I took it, just as you got to continue on, each stays. Whether or not you run into someone, you got to have that will to survive. Mm-hmm. And that's what at least to me. And then you can look at it. It obviously has deeper meaning than just that, but every time that he said that, I was like, all right, because even at one scene that's like, I showed you how to kill yourself,
yeah,
and this is how we do it. But at the end of the day, you just got to keep remembering, tomorrow you just ignite it again, so it's kind of like that one foot in front of the other approach.
Yeah, just one step at a time.
And it's probably funny too, because that kid probably was taking it as a literal meaning until close to the very end, where he started to realize what it represented.
Yeah. There's a lot of different parts about this movie that I really like. The set design and like the location shooting specifically is really good. So I was reading about this because while watching it, I couldn't remember, like, did they like green screen any of this at all? Like, is this on a set, or did they like actually go into locations? And I read about it, and they filmed most of it in Pittsburgh. And what they did was they digitally altered some of the background stuff and removed a lot of the plant life, but they shot most of it in the winter, where not a lot of leaves are and like all the trees are barren, and that really helped with like set the environment up. And a lot of like what they shot is very location based and like in the wilderness and like kind of not rough conditions, but just out in the thick of it.
I'd have to imagine. Just watching it's kind of hard to think that they, at least the outside scenes, obviously, were, but it looked great. The one interesting,
it looked really good. I was impressed with like the cinematography and just how it was framed. Like there were some shots that were like, damn, that looks really good.
Days of Heaven, right, or At Heaven's Gate, or At Eternity's Gate. They're like that. That's kind of like some of the I can't fucking remember.
At Heaven's Gate.
At Heaven's
I think
Gate.
That's the cult.
Yeah. Oh, saw that documentary. There's beautifully shot and some of the scenery. It's got the tone and the feel of what they're going for.
Oh yeah,
which is it's impressive. There like I was watching, it's like a sepia feel to it. Mm-hmm. That alone gives it such like a a very vintage look, almost like you're almost traveling in the past, even though we're in the future.
Yeah, I think this movie, even though it came out like a long time ago still, I think it will continue to age well in terms of like the visuals and how it's portrayed. Yeah, like
you couldn't say that this wasn't made 5 years ago.
Yeah. Like it looks really good. And there are some shots too when they get closer to the coast where they shoot on location in like desolate parts that were ravaged by Hurricane Katrina.
Oh.
Like they shot in like a lot of locations that were just devastated and abandoned.
Yeah.
Because of that event. And
I believe it. I was down there around that time.
Yeah. It's just really
2 years afterwards.
It's really impressive how like there's some environments that they know something happened there and like they just utilize it. Like I think there's a building that they were in. I think it was the one where they get the Coke can from, the vending machine, where that building was an actual real building that people used for like event centers or something, and then it caught fire for some reason or another, and then they just never did anything with it.
It's like an abandoned mall.
Yeah. And like, I don't want to say John Hillcoat is an opportunist, but he definitely uses those environments to the movie's advantage. And I think it's really cool that he does that.
Yes. Well, it provides the authenticity of the film.
Yeah, like they don't have to build a set, but also like they don't have to film in a studio.
Well, and that's what gives you more of the grounded approach for this, even though we're in this, universe with these events going on. It definitely makes it feel very personable because you've seen those places. And you can tell, that wherever they're at, it's a very real world vibe to it.
Absolutely. It's very relatable.
When you have to have that in this film, because if you don't, if some of this edit, because of the story, and I don't want to call it dry, but it is literally survival at the most rudimentary form. There's not much you can go off. And like I said, I like the antagonist of the film is despair.
Yeah, like is losing hope.
Yeah, like, and that's such a fucking melancholy like aspect of it that it's very hard to. You have to have this sort of scenery and imagery, and being able to see yourself in their shoes. Without it, this movie does not do as well.
It doesn't work.
Not at all.
Yeah. So like I said before, there are some reading the book, there's some differences. There's not a lot. I think the only difference, and I can see why they didn't put it in the movie.
Is this the baby?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you read about that?
It was in the trivia, and I couldn't tell. So you read the trivia, and it's like 2 sentences. They didn't put the baby getting roasted over the Spitfire or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's a good call. Like I was like, I saw enough of everything that I needed to see to make this very authentic. Like I didn't need that.
Yeah. Like there are some points where like it could have gotten into the realm of gratuitous.
Yeah.
And that definitely would have been it, I think. It's like, oh, if there was one thing in this movie that was like that, there it is.
Yep, that would have been. It's funny too because I read it and I was like, oh, like I imagine that's like a shot, like you just. So, but now that you're saying it, I'm like in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe there's more of a lead up to actually capturing this baby and doing these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only real big difference I can think of from the book to the movie. Because otherwise, like they include the basement scene with the people being held prisoner by the cannibals.
Yeah.
They include all the flashback scenes with Charlize Theron. They include Robert Duvall as the old. Well, Robert Duvall's not written as Robert Duvall in the book, but you know what I mean. They keep the old man character.
He's Eli.
He's Eli. That's right. Which I don't even know if in the book they mention his name.
Yeah, I wanted to say I read up something on that, and I don't know if they did or didn't. I wish I could remember because some of that scene was like improvised, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense then.
He might have
if he didn't.
Yeah.
And then they kept the thief who steals the tent and like the supplies. Yeah, they keep him in the movie, or from the book to the movie. Like I said, there's not much that's different from the source material, and I think it's telling because John Hillcoat is making an adaptation for movie for Blood Meridian.
Kyle's holding up a book right now showing me that he's read this.
I bought it today, so I have not read this.
Oh, never mind.
Redacted. And it's funny because I guess Cormac McCarthy, who is 89 years old, by the way, is an executive producer with his son on the movie adaptation that John Hillcoat is working on. So that'll be interesting, at least because at least Cormac McCarthy has like some creative vision and stock into the movie being made.
Yeah.
I think the only other film version of a book that he wrote that's out there is No Country for Old Men, which is like, I know, one of your favorite movies.
And I really enjoyed the book.
Oh, I've never read the book.
That one's actually pretty. There's a couple differences. So it's weird because you're talking about some of the differences, and I always wonder, so like we talk about through line, you talk about, living in this world, and I always wonder because of the adaptation from the book to movie. I mean, is there a deeper metaphor here than what we're looking at, or did McCarthy just really write this as a world in which we're living stripped of our identities, stripped of our personalities, solely surviving? Like human at the most rudimentary level do we still have because of our rational, sentient beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Use that. We've created this philosophy or belief of hope. It's like, is that what he's going for? And it's interesting to me. That was one thing I'm trying to come away from the film was, or is it a much bigger meaning of something that's going on with the boy and the father? And even if it's post-apocalyptic, you could just be looking simply at the relationship of the two and what it takes to raise a child, whether it's post-apocalyptic or, in the suburbs or in the city of New York City, in the 80s. Like, what exactly are we going for here?
Yeah.
And, so I'm not to get way off tangent. I was just saying, like, we talk about differences between books and movies, but actually taking that out of the book, does it really change what's going on or what we're seeing or what the intended perception of his writings were,
Yeah.
Because like No Country for Old Men, there's a couple differences, but they do a pretty good job of adapting that to screen.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like I said, a couple differences, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really take away from what the book was representing or what the movie, pulled from it.
Yeah, and I think that's what John Hillcoat wanted to do with this one as well.
Right.
Just represent what the book means and what it offers to the imagination of the reader and try to put that on screen as best as he can, What did you think of some of the acting from certain actors in this movie? Like what did you think of Cody Schmidt-McPhee?
So when I first saw this film, it was talked about on a podcast that I listened to, and they were really giving the kid a hard time. And, I remember watching it the first time and being like, oh yeah, like they like totally spot on. This kid sucks. Having watching it this time and having a kid of my own, I can't imagine, like me and Preston being in this world.
Yeah.
And how he would act. Them walking away from just so one, you don't know the kid's age, right?
You don't know the kid's age. Yeah.
I figured he's like 12, 11,
Yeah, he's like 10 or something.
It has to be very elementary kid, so like I'm watching it and then I'm like, boy, like giving this kid a hard time for this show. I was like, there's no fucking way. And one of the coolest things about this is even Vigo mentions it. You must think I'm from a different world.
That's I think something that a lot of people. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
You're good.
I think that's something that a lot of people who watch this movie and criticize the kid really harshly don't understand is that from the kid's point of view, he was born in the world. He doesn't have any recollection of what society was like before other than what his dad has told him. So he's working off of just being a product of the environment and not knowing what certain things are. Like, he doesn't know what shampoo is. Right. He doesn't know what a can of cola is. He doesn't know what certain concepts that we used to practice in a modern day are because the world has ended and he has no opportunity to have that come up unless his dad tells him specifically about it. Like, there's a reason why he's just a naive kid. Yeah. And that's why he plays him that way.
Dude, you're fucking 10 and you're living in this world and you're like, I was thinking like if we got into the scene where they're in the house and I was like Preston's with me, I'd be fucking killed. He'd be like, you can't find me. Where are we going, Dad? And I'm like, I'd just be like, holy shit, like. But my point being is that they're kids. They don't know any better. So I mean, it's like, how do you portray that as a kid? And I'm like watching it this time around. I was like, He's completely fine. Like there's no way anyone could. One, we've never been in the fucking apocalyptic world, so like okay, get your criticism out there. Two, dude, you go move to fucking Alaska, have your wife birth out a kid, don't have any sort of educational material around whatsoever. Wait till he's 10 without explaining what Christmas is, and then be like, at 10 years old, bring up Christmas and Santa Claus for the first time and look at that thing, look at you like, what the fuck are you talking about, old man? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because like I said, those concepts, you can't relate them to anything because everything's fucking destroyed. I mean, everything's gone.
The best part is, and I didn't agree with Vigo on this, talk about bad dad skills. He's sitting there and he's like, he's talking about stockings and like we used to hang, and he's like, you can tell he's going through it. He's like, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. He's never, you know what? Imagine like the kid's tears when he's 14 being explained what Thanksgiving was.
Yeah.
Like that, like, what? Like you had...
There were more family members?
Fucking food? Like, you know what I'm saying? So what I didn't agree with, I was like, go sit outside. Like, okay, Vigo. Probably not a great call.
Well, that's I think a point that the movie, and I think the book to a certain degree makes too, is that Vigo makes a lot of choices in this movie that, they make you question his humanity and like whether or not they're still the good guys. Like you could argue that like he didn't need to take the thief's clothes, but he viewed it as justified because he's teaching him a lesson. But at that point, the through line of carrying the fire and still being the good guys becomes really valuable because he's demonstrating that even though you are a good guy and you're taking care of your son, you're doing all these good things for him, it's like you're making these choices that kind of contradict that. And now your son's looking at that and learning like what it actually means to be a good guy, and who can I even trust in this world if my dad does these things to other people when he doesn't need to, Yeah,
I mean, yes, I agree with that. I have a hard time. There's a lot of conflicting philosophies going on, and there's a lot of, I think, different arguments that could be made. It's from one angle, it's just interesting because what they do, like I keep saying that they strip you down to a fundamental, but like some of his emotions come out, some of the irrational thinking comes out. There's a lot of times where because of where they're at, they have such a reptilian brain of what they're going on. You've stripped everything that they know besides survival, finding food, and sleeping, right? So when you have some of these things pop up that happen, like taking the thief's clothes off. So, in one society, you get robbed, you take your eye. In another, you take a hand. In another one, you go to jail. And then in another one, it might be ask for forgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. Justice is such a controversial thing, and it's polarizing because no one society's crafted it. It's only a belief and a thought, right? And it depends on where you stand at with your emotional construct and maybe society, who you are as a person. So there's different things happening going on, and if I guess I kind of get annoyed with that because if you're going off that route, the very first time of We Carry the Fire is when he shoots the guy. Mm-hmm. Right?
I think so, yeah.
And at the very beginning, and he hadn't alluded to it yet. He says it's kind of after that point is he is explaining this is We Carry the Fire. That's why I took it as survival. Mm-hmm. And about as much as I gathered from it, because of a lot of what Vigo does conflicts with what his representation is.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying, you know, and a lot of what the kid's taking is sort of that virtuous approach to it, and at the end of the day, I just don't know where it's going to go. Like, and I'll tell you, the ending of this didn't really fucking elate me either. Yeah,
that's something I want to talk about too. Was the end, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, so I guess there are questionable decisions that are made, but a lot of it's built from the construct of you're stepping outside of the path, and that's, I guess, maybe where the road's at. The road's one singular destination, and once you kind of start drifting outside the road is when you get into these gray areas and decisions that are made, and there's a lot of arguments that you can be made one way or another. I didn't agree with him having the guy stripped for his clothes, and then me and Jasmine were watching it, and she said, why is he doing it? I said, scales of justice. Mm-hmm. If you're a thief, you're going to be reprimanded as a thief. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, at what point are you a bad guy? You let the guy walk, and he turns around and kills you, It's survival. Your survival's been, we're all viruses at the end of the day, looking just to fucking keep going. your mind will race and keep you alive no matter what you want to do. And, that's one of the things where you get into is sort of the construct of society and where you're building as the people in groups, and that's why I get into a little bit of the here and there, because I get it, but if it's all about survival, like, what's it matter at the end of the day?
Yeah. You want to talk about the ending since you brought it up?
I didn't. Yeah, sure.
It's very similar to how the book ends, and
he just sucks at writing endings. I'm going to tell you right now, No Country ended shittily too.
Yeah.
All right. It's exact same. It's the same as the movie as it is in the book. So that's what you get.
It's very sudden, and it just kind of ends. So the ending of this, both the book and the movie, spoilers for that, I guess, is the Viggo Mortensen dies. So the father dies because he's sick and he's coughing up blood, and he can't eat and he can't move, and so he just dies. And the son, he doesn't even walk like that far away from him before these people pop up. So this is where Guy Pearce comes into the movie with like his weird ass teeth, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, we've been following you for a while. You okay?" And he's like, "Who are you? How can I trust you?" He's like, "I guess you don't know. You'll just have to come with us. We got a little boy and a little girl too. Also a dog.
Yeah.
And my wife." And she's like, "We're so glad you're okay. You'll be okay now." And like all this stuff. It's like, I can see the criticism of it for sure. Like, it's very abrupt and kind of like out of nowhere a little bit. Like,
is it a reward for carrying the fire?
I guess, like, it's supposed to give you comfort in that now the boy has like extra safety with him, and that they have like a group now.
Oh, fuck.
And I guess there is a little bit of like a thing where it's not totally out of nowhere, because he does see the boy earlier in the movie, and then Viggo Mortensen doesn't believe him. He's like, "There's a boy over there," and then he's like, "No, you didn't see him," or whatever. Like, there's a bit of justification in the middle of the movie, but like, still, it's very sudden, and it's just like, all right, now the movie ends.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better if you just see the little boy like on his own kind of walk off, and then you don't really know where it goes from there.
Hold it true to the life that we're in. Hold it true to that. That's what I'm saying. Hold it. He walks off, and it's, God, I hope he makes it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's what I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's really how this movie should have ended. And I think a lot of people, you probably would have had more tears, because there's no fucking way that if he goes off on his own, he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably mutilated and other disgusting things. But
oh boy,
I'm just saying. Like, I'm just saying. That's
hey, why am I the bad guy? Yeah. I'm just telling it like.
Wait, are we talking about the movie here? Am I wrong?
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
There are people who view the ending of both the book and the movie as a more dour thing for the kid, because they think, oh, Guy Pearce and his family, they could really be bad, and like the kid could just be screwed even more. But I think I'm more on the side of like it being an optimistic ending, because the first time I watched it, I definitely thought it was a little bit more ambiguous. Where it could go either way for me. Whereas this time watching it, I'm like, okay, it feels a little more optimistic, because they do have the kids with them, and because they have the dog. If they were cannibalistic evil people, they wouldn't have the dog. They would have eaten the dog by now. Like,
yes, that's
the fact that they have the dog with them is an indication that they are probably good people and that they'll look after him.
Whether or not the kids are theirs, whether or not those people were together before, they're conjoining a family now. Right?
Yeah,
and they're developing a little bit of a pack.
Yeah, and I think that helps me view it as a more optimistic ending than what I think a lot of people view it as.
Well, people are, it could be taken either way.
People are stupid.
Well, I'm just saying, it really could be taken either way. I don't, the nice way of looking at it is it's carry the fire, and you're being rewarded for being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like one of those things where all the small things add up to build to a moment that was set up for you.
Yeah.
So going back and leaving clothes and food for the thief, or helping the old man. I mean, it's all those like little small things. You could say that because he was trying to be a good soul, he was rewarded, and you could say that
it's very storybook ending.
Well, here's the thing I will say. Whether or not they're good or bad, okay, they've got the two kids, right? as you mentioned before, imprinting and the behaviors of how they act is just what will become part of his traits as a person, right? So even if they are bad, they have the dog and the kid. So they go and fucking pillage and rob and cannibalize. The kid's still gonna survive. Like that's what I'm saying. Like to me, the through line of it all, and I get a little bit of the hope and the, being good and being stripped of everything, and we can still rise above it, I guess. And I don't know if McCarthy intended it that way. I mean, it's kind of how the movie came off. But, like, to me, it's survival.
Yeah.
And he's still going to survive. So whether it's good or bad, he's still breathing, So, that's the different perspectives that we all take away from this. Like, that was mine. So, like, I watched it, and I was like, well, one, I was like, I wonder if they're going to try to repopulate the planet or like what's going on. I was like, that's disgusting. And then, I was like, oh, like they got to be good because of the dog. And I was like, well, even if they are bad, like let's just say they go out and do like awful, awful things, like and even chain up, like those kids are still alive. The dog's still alive. The humans are still alive. So even that virus mentality that we have of keep going, it keeps going. Now, what could happen is eventually you domesticate and populate this planet of all these shitbirds that you got, and then the world is awful, awful, awful once population comes back, if ever. But in terms of the story of the kid, like he's probably going to make it another 5 years, you'd hope, if they stay off the road.
Yeah. So there were some things about this movie that I was not big on. I think one of the biggest things is some of the music choices were a little weird. Like there were times where it's just ambient kind of droning where they're walking along, and that's like okay, but like there were some moments where the music they used was a little too twangy for me.
Sure.
Almost like a little bit of yeehaw kind of going on, like
backwoods-esque.
Yeah, like very much so. And I felt like it could have been benefited from like being a little more dour to kind of match the tone of what they're going for. Because there's some moments where like they're walking down the road with their shopping cart, and the music is almost a little too twangy, so like it has a bit of an uplift to it, and it just kind of takes me out of it a bit.
I think it might have been done on purpose to keep hope afloat for the audience members as well. I don't think it fit in at all. I would have much rather like the All's Quiet on the Western Front. If they would have put that in here, I would have.
Oh my god!
It, right? Like how desolate and fucking the collapse of man would that have been?
Yeah.
But I think a little bit, and this is just kind of thinking about it right now. Is there are points that this guy's got to keep you engaged, because I mean, at one point he takes the kid's gun, he's holding his hand, he's like, "This is how you do it," and he has him stick the gun in his mouth, and I'm like, you got a lot of that going on. Like you got to figure out kind of how to keep us like, oh man, maybe they'll make it.
oh wow, there's no hope at all. Fucking
like so it might have been a musical, like a creative choice in that aspect for audience members, kind of, and not to necessarily.
I could see the intention. I just don't think it worked really.
Sure, I'm not gonna whether it did or I'm not gonna go against it or for it. I guess it was it. To me, it fit well enough to where I didn't really pay attention, but it wasn't something that I was like, man, that was great.
Yeah.
And
then another big thing I had with it is that it does kind of get repetitive after a bit. Like there's only so much that you can do that's unique with the environment, with that specific like point A to point B story with these characters that you have to live vicariously through. And after like probably 3/4 of the way through the movie, I was like, I'm really feeling the runtime on this.
Yeah, because like, I mean, if we're like, it's like it's just despair. Like it's very.
It is. It really is. And normally I love movies like that, and I do really like this movie. But after a while, man, I felt it weigh down on me.
And I was just very intrigued with all of the events that were happening, because it's like there's these interconnected moments, and it's supposed to kind of lead you. For some reason, I just sometimes don't get it or understand it. Like running into the old man, following him. But after they do that, the theme of being followed or following someone really picks up, which I couldn't for the life of me figure out where it sprouted from.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's the first time we ever talked about it was, the old man, unless seeing that kid maybe was the inception of that thought. So like, there are things that happen that are supposed to keep you engaged, and I just don't think that they did a great job with it. And then some of whatever, I don't know what they were going for, went over my head that just really left me like, don't know why we're doing this at all.
Yeah.
You know?
I get that 100%.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with this film specifically? Anything we didn't mention that you want to bring up?
Did you understand what was the purpose of Are You Following Me? The paranoia of it all? Like, I couldn't.
I recognize it. I'm not entirely sure what the point of it is. I think maybe they're all. It's supposed to say something like they're all heading for the same destination, and the world is smaller than what they think it is, and that there are more people out there than what was perceived earlier in the movie, where it is just kind of desolate. And the environment itself just kind of being a place where you run into someone and you just have to deal with it. And kind of, like you said, virus mentality where you just have to keep going. But does that virus mentality carry on with everyone where they all end up in the same place?
Right.
Like, I'm not 100% on it quite yet, but I recognize that it's there.
That's what I guess So they had. I didn't even pay attention with the old man because he goes, you've been following me, or why are you following me?" That's the first time you really see that get brought up. Mm-hmm. And then Vigo catches the thief, and he goes, you were following us, right?" Mm-hmm. And then you get to the bow and arrow incident, and hell of a shot, by the way.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
Like, we all just,
with a flare gun,
dude. Like, he popped it up there, and I was like, I know there's a chick in there, but I don't remember if he got someone. And then he goes up there. He's like, "Why were you following us?" And then they start crying, "You were following us."
Yeah.
And that's just a curiosity I had with it. Because at that point I was like, because then the little boy brings it up, and then they go, "We were following you." And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, halfway through this film, it just turned into people following
Maybe
people.
it's supposed to indicate that, like, no one person or no one group of people is better than the other, in that it doesn't matter who is being followed or who's following who, is that, like, they're all in the same situation, and that a simple misunderstanding can lead to dire consequences, essentially.
And that's why, maybe that's why the old man, that's why they have it first brought up with him, because they don't kill him. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't turn into something. They help each other out, and then they part ways.
It's the most neutral interaction of the whole movie. And There's
I was about to say the other one,
because no one gets killed, no one gets hurt. It's just a simple hi and bye.
the end of the film would be a positive interaction with following. So like,
and then the others are negative. Like, there's different degrees of it that you kind of go through.
I just thought it was odd because I'm like, halfway through the film, this theme picked up and took off, and I'm like, this isn't really. It's kind of a through line, but it kind of isn't. Like, it just popped up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they end on it. Like, we were, and it's like.
It's very, like, just compacted towards the last half of the movie.
Yeah, so that's another negative I had with it, and it's kind of me just being like, I don't, and I like your explanations. I'll say that. Like, and if you guys have seen this and you picked up on it too, I mean, it's a great thought, and it's another one to kind of put your mind to. I mean, this movie makes you think a little bit.
This movie makes you stink a little bit because they probably smell like shit in that film.
Oh my God, Vigo's washing the kid. Now, granted,
all the dirt just goes down the drain.
Oh, not that. It was when they were in the river.
Oh, okay.
And he washes them because in that one he does get cleaned up. It's actually the first time you actually get some sort of identity between the two.
Yeah.
He gets to drink some alcohol, and he's smoking a cigarette.
He shaves his face. He cuts his hair.
You can just see he's like back in that old world of, man, this is what it was like to be alive. And but they're in the river, and he's just washing the kid off. And then I'm looking at, I mean, dude, his fucking face is caked. And I'm like, just do the same.
Yeah.
Like,
I was too busy looking at his little Viggo Mortensen's hanging out in that scene.
Dude, he loves being naked in movies. Like, I think it's like he's got to sign a waiver on it. He's probably pissed about Lord of the Rings.
It happens twice in this movie where he's butt-ass naked and he dives into the water.
Yep. Just for whatever.
He really likes doing that, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's his thing. Yeah. Just little Viggo running around.
I don't remember him being balls out in the book, but hey, if that's what Viggo wants to do, that's what Viggo wants to do.
John, I've got an idea for you. What do you think?
He's like, we're going to go balls out with this. Yeah. Oh my God. Should we get into ratings for The Road?
We can.
You want to go first?
I will go first. This is a 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Now, I will say, so like we always talk about, I have the entertainment scale weighed on with the how good the movie was scale. Mm-hmm. Right? So movie-wise, this is fantastically shot. I mean, this is somewhat similar to All Is Quiet on the Western Front.
It's gorgeous,
right?
Mm-hmm.
The angles and some of the story and where it was going. I mean, it just at some point there's got to be a little bit more excitement happening, and I don't mean exciting in a uplifting way. I could have taken more of the Cannibals on the Road approach.
Yeah,
like those,
like make it kind of like throw some more elements of horror in there, like when they're in the basement,
drama, thriller. I mean, like in the basement,
because that scene was we didn't even mention it. Like that scene was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It was so I had seen this film. I watched this late one night back in 2013-14, I want to say, and like pieces of the movie I remember, but I always thought the boy got captured, so I couldn't quite remember or recall. So as it's going on, they get to that basement scene. I remember when they were in the food cellar. So like I do remember that part because I knew that was coming up, and I thought that was that part. I was like, oh, that's right. They find this little house, and that's right. They get into no, not at all.
No.
What the fuck?
I remember the cannibal, like people being held prisoner in the basement scene, and I remembered it, but it still gave me like anxiety and like feelings of like unease when they were approaching the darkness.
Oh yeah.
And they had just the lighter on them, and like you could see all the people just like all bloodied and like amputated and like naked.
Yeah.
It was just super fucking jarring, and it still like got to me a little bit on the second watch, even though I knew it was coming.
Yeah. They're like watching the film, it's always kind of like who would I be? Where would I be at?
I'd be one of those people.
I'm always nervous that it's like, Mac, your dumbass would be right down in that fucking cellar without an arm.
Yeah, I would hope that I would die just immediately when whatever happened.
That's what. Yeah, I asked Jasmine. I was like, because we're watching it, it's her and Theron, right? And I was like, and she's going off. She's like, I can't do, and I'm like, because I'm pretty sure I'd be like Vigo. Like, I'd just be like, I'm such a positive guy. Like I told you, I mean, the whole airplane thing was so like we were almost stranded in Charlotte for another day.
Yeah.
And I had to get Preston back, and it's like, don't worry, I got this. Like, and obviously it's scales above what he's going through. So I look at Jasmine, I'm thinking like, all right, well, you picked me and a lot of people to be with. Like you got to have it. And I go, you think you'd be like Charlie's? Like, you think you'd be like her? Like, just give up? And she looks at me and she kind of looks up. She goes, oh, yeah, no, you're ending it. And I was like, what? Jasmine? And she's like, I'm not dealing with that shit. I was like, oh, all right. Like, I guess so.
Can I be the dog? I'll be the dog.
Yeah.
I'll be the dog at the end.
Man, that thing looks so scrawny, too.
Yeah.
They made a good job.
That's probably why they didn't eat it. It's because it's all bone.
Probably. Yeah, that thing's all 35 pounds. I mean, so anyways, so that's why I gave it a 7 out of 10. It, like you said, it lost me, and then the ending wasn't all that great. And I thought the story was good, but there could have been better. Could have been more cinematic, if you will.
I got you.
So
a little bit more of a tension-filled tone going on there.
Bit. The first 30 minutes of this film were pretty gripping. That and the editing took me out of this. I didn't like the editing all that much.
Okay. Yeah, this is an 8 out of 10 from me. Nice. I think I definitely have my issues with it. It's for sure closer to a 7 than a 9. But I really like the atmosphere and what they did with it, and how much, for me personally, it matches with the tone of the book, and how they kept a lot of it faithful, which I think really adds to like the atmosphere and the story. I think Vigo's good. I think the kid definitely has a few moments where like a bit of the more emotional scenes are a little bit harder for him as a child actor to perform. But otherwise, I think he does a good job of portraying like a naive kid that doesn't know any better of the world around him or what the world used to be. Some of the soundtrack took me out of it a little bit, but I do like the performances, and I think as far as like a post-apocalyptic movie goes, this is one of my top ones that I've seen. So
I'd have to go through. I mean, this is if I've seen it, it's probably only 3. So, this is the most realistic. I mean, it depends on if a guy came up to me and we were at a restaurant and we were picking out movies to consume.
Yeah,
I'd definitely ask him what's your appetite. If you're looking for something a little bleak, a nice little fucking 1930s scotch you want to sip on and just kind of like get down into your feelings, this one for sure.
Yeah.
It's not, or if you're just looking like, hey, I don't know what that world would be like, I'd be like, yep, this is probably the closest you're gonna see to the apocalypse unless we live it.
Yeah.
You know.
Very true. Very scary. Very true. All right. Speaking of true, we are feeling true to our word that we give you guys a question for the audience sometimes. I don't know where I promised that to you guys, but I made it.
There you go.
And we're here now.
It's back through one of the episodes. Just listen to them all.
Yes.
And if you don't want to go through them, have a friend listen to them.
Exactly. Have somebody listen to them, for God's sake.
Multiple people. You guys can take 5 episodes on at a time.
Get like 5 desktops going at the same time, listen to the same episode, and then, you'll find out.
Yes.
But our question for the audience this week was, what is your least favorite movie genre and why? And we got a decent amount of answers. Some of them didn't go into the why, but I'm going to read them nonetheless, just because.
Hey, they threw it out there.
They threw it out there. They went through the trouble of typing it out, so I'm going to let them shine. And the first one comes from Don, who says, drama, because it is dramatic. And then he has a little, like, kind of smirk emoji with it, like a kind of thing,
Clever.
Interesting answer. I don't know if I could agree that would be my least favorite, because I think drama is probably one of my most favorite genres of movies, because you get a lot of good character moments, you get really good scripts, good acting, you get all those together, and it creates a really compelling movie that can
really dramatic movie
that can really impact you. Yeah, exactly. A dramatic movie. Movies in nature are dramatic for the most part, whether it's dour dramatic or hilariously dramatic or just action-wise dramatic, like just the scale and scope of it.
Yeah.
Drama can mean all sorts of things, but I get what he means in that, like, 2 characters in a room who are arguing with each other and it's supposed to be a serious tone. Like, I guess that's more of, like, probably what he means by that.
He's like, nope, just other ones.
Yeah, just what you were saying before.
You were right on with it.
He's screaming at me like, no, you had it.
Yeah. Nixon v. Frost was great.
Yeah. So our next one, did you have anything to say about?
No, I don't. I'm not gonna. Hey, I'd be curious. So when you guys like leave us an answer, give us an example, because like you said, it's so like there are so many sub levels of drama there, and I would agree with you, like the melancholy dramatic, or the you could have a political drama that wouldn't be that effective, but like an action drama could be very invoking.
Yeah, or like an emotional drama like Marriage Story. That I think is like,
that's a good drama.
That's a very, like, when I think of drama, I think of that movie.
Really?
I would say so.
Yeah, actually nothing comes to my head maybe Michael Clayton.
Michael Clayton?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if I know who that is.
For a movie podcast, George Clooney.
Oh, yeah.
The George Clooney drama.
Oh.
Yeah. I've seen it twice now, and I still can't remember, but I always remember the tone of that movie. So serious.
George Clooney. Okay, I know who that is. All right, that's the name I recognize. I thought you were talking about a real person.
I know you looked at me. I don't know who Michael Clayton is, and
who is that?
What does he write? What dramatic movies has he written?
Who's this Vanilla Sky you keep talking about? Yeah. So our next one comes from Kaylin, and she says, musical or chick flicks. Never cared for them. I like my stories with a bit more explosive action, they say. So, very honest answer.
Yes.
It's weird. I don't know if I've been exposed to that many chick flicks, really. Like Nicholas Sparks type movies.
You only have like 200 movies in your zeitgeist, so.
Hey, I have more than that. Yeah. I can point out exactly how many movies I have in my zeitgeist. I can pull up my letterbox right now and tell you exactly how many.
Tough guy.
Yeah, I have 856 movies in my repertoire.
Not bad. I got over 1,500.
Is that what IMDb does? They keep track of that?
And I go through. Well, I have to look at my list and go through. And The Road I've seen before. Watched it. I hadn't rated it yet. There's so many films I've not yet rated on that thing that I gotta That will never pop into my head until I click on it.
Yeah, no, you've got me beat for sure, but I'm not at 200.
You're right.
Give me a little more
Yeah,
credit.
I was only 25%.
It's more like 300.
And I bet you've seen a couple chick flicks.
I have
800 films. You've got a couple in there.
Fault in Our Stars is one that comes to mind. That's more. But at that point, is that more of a drama, like a teen drama movie about like kids with cancer?
Teen drama. I mean, it's not.
I guess. Yeah.
I got This one actually seems a little bit more on the nose because maybe it's like John Tucker Must Die. I mean, maybe, are we talking about like romantic comedies or?
That one I thought was just a straight up comedy, but who knows?
I don't know. Chick flicks like are. I think like who's the guy that The Notebook.
Oh, yeah, Nicholas Sparks.
Yeah, I think maybe more of like that.
That's what I think when I think chick flick. And I mean, I haven't seen any of his movies or adaptations or anything.
Well, just because you haven't seen that doesn't mean you haven't seen chick flicks.
I know. I'm trying to remember, though, what there is. I can only think of Fault in Our Stars right now. A Knight's Tale is kind of a chick flick.
No, it's not. How dare you?
It's Megan's one of her favorite movies.
Yeah. Well, and Megan, it's not a chick flick, so if you've been wrong all these years. Unless you're not classifying it like that.
It's got some, like, romanticism in it.
Yeah, but just because it doesn't make that a chick flick.
True. I guess that doesn't make Venom a chick flick either.
Exactly.
But
thank you.
I mean, maybe it is. I don't know.
We'll find out. Well, ladies of the pod, unite.
Yes, let us know how wrong we are. Yeah. How wrong I am specifically. Did we have anything more to say about that as an answer?
No, musicals are probably there for me.
Yeah, the same. And we got a decent amount of the same answers from people.
Yeah, I gotta keep going. Yeah. Let's not shit on everyone else. You have your voice.
Obviously, yes. And I agree with a lot of what they say.
It's not even really shitting on because I think we're agreeing with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like Brandon, he says musical because most of the time they tend to drag on and have next to zero action, which the reasons for not liking musicals typically I would have to disagree with because for me it's not that they don't have action, it's because they disrupt the story or they tend to throw in these musical numbers or these performances that don't feel consistent with the tone of the movie, you know, or like what the characters are going through. Like West Side Story, we talked about that, and like
but the original West Side Story, I think you would say it actually would. Like I do agree with you. I'm
thinking of the Steven Spielberg.
That's what I'm saying. Like these newer musicals that have come out really are choreographed and production based, which that really jilts. Right?
Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah. It's impressive what they do with like the choreography and a lot of the musical numbers themselves.
It doesn't fit in with the story.
A movie,
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't. I'm agreeing with you. That's what I'm saying. But the older ones, the production, it's the same throughout. Mm-hmm. So you have more consistent. Like Grease is a great.
Oh yeah, I like Grease.
That's what I'm saying. Like Grease, and that's from 1962. The production values it stays consistent throughout. Mm-hmm. Whereas like that's what I'm saying. Like West Side Story from Spielberg, hey, we're going to do like a scene of filming, and then we're going to do another scene of just choreography, and we'll spruce it together, and then we're going to make this film, and it's going to be fucking zany and wild, and it's going to be so over the top and awesome.
Yeah, I think the most modern musical that I like the best is probably Tick, Tick, Boom, because at least within the context of that movie, he's making a musical, and they're all like these theater kids that are always hanging out and singing anyway. Mm-hmm. So in the context of that movie, it works quite well. And the songs themselves are really good and memorable.
Sure.
Like I can even remember them right now. I'm not going to sing them because I don't want to bless you guys too much with my voice. But
I want to say I liked La La Land.
I haven't seen that yet. I want to. It's on my list.
Yeah, that one I want to say it actually it felt appropriate. But would Whiplash be a musical?
I don't think so.
Drama?
No.
Chick flick?
A drama, yes, for sure.
Okay.
Chick flick, maybe. If you like Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons screaming at each other the whole time, if that turns you on, then sure, why not?
Yeah, there you go. Why? Some chick's gonna get a flick, am I right?
They're out there. Oh.
Whoa, boy. Hey.
That was, dare I say, a 10 out of 10 joke. Wow. Joke's so good, I might have to cut it.
Women unite. Let me know if I went over the top.
Yeah. Don't be mad at me now. Be mad at him. Yeah. Redirect your anger. Our next one comes from Levi, who we had on our last episode.
Yeah.
And he gives a different answer, so that's nice. He says, poorly researched historical films, or ones that purposefully change the history they are covering to focus on an unneeded romance or character arc. Well-made history movies, though, amazing. He puts in parentheses.
Interesting. So like Inglourious Bastards he's out on?
Well, I feel like he is specifically maybe talking about Titanic or Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor's trash.
Pearl Harbor specifically, because most of that movie is just a dumbass love triangle between Ben Affleck and the other two fuckers in that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm very harsh with it, but
Yeah.
I need to be because that movie's turbo cringe. Like,
yeah, that's a Michael Bay film.
it's a poor man's Titanic.
Well, didn't they had another one that just came out too that was very awful.
A historical one that was...
It just recently, like 2-3 years ago.
Oh,
It's got my boy in it too.
your boy.
From The Conjuring.
Oh, Patrick Wilson?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like an admiral. It's not the it's
Maybe I can look this up while we...
you can look it up because I'm gonna say I'm curious as to there's a couple of them in there that
All right,
let me do a disservice.
Let me look
for,
through his filmography.
Well, you don't
said
have to
it.
talk out loud. I mean, I can sit here and fill time while you're looking it up.
I am helping with the back and forth dynamic. You're not talking about Moonfall, are you?
Patrick, he's got to be in it.
Oh, was it Midway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Midway, trash, awful.
Yeah, I heard that was fucking garbage.
Yeah, the problem too with my movies that I've seen is that I will scrub them from my film, but I don't know if I'll rate Black Adam, and it will just never have existed in my mind.
Oh, I mean that you're probably the better for it.
There's some peace and serenity with it.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to like the fucking volume stats and like how many films have you seen, I get discredited.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a catch-22.
I know it's a double-edged sword. It's like, I mean, I scrubbed Black Adam from my memory, but as far as my count of films go, I guess I can't count it towards it, even though I have seen it. But
Yeah.
shit,
What
now
do you
I'm
do?
a little bit discredited.
Well, do you have that in your memory banks now, just so you can get the counting stats going?
You can maybe view it as like a learning experience. Like you watch Black Adam and you learn about how bad it is, so then you can avoid it.
I've had plenty of learning experiences. I've learned that those films need to get scrubbed.
Fair point.
Oh man.
I heard that as good of a movie as Braveheart is, I've heard that that's very historically inaccurate.
Well, William Wallace is like 6'5".
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson, they had to put him on stilts. They had to do different camera angles and have him on a horse. And at one point, he's like, "I've heard William Wallace is this tall. He's not. He's me."
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to hear about some of the battles and what he had to go through.
Yeah.
So
I could see that from Levi's perspective too, because knowing him, he really likes history and learning about it.
Yeah.
And so to see it portrayed in a movie poorly, that would really irk you.
good one, Alexander with Colin Farrell. Seen that?
I have not.
Yep. Don't worry about it.
All right. Scrubbed from my list.
There's only and Jasmine's gonna hate hearing this, but there's only one scene that hasn't been scrubbed that I don't know if I could get rid of. So
all right.
on to the next.
I can imagine what that is. And so can you. Our next one comes from Matt, and he simply says musicals all day.
Yeah.
So we got 3 different answers from people that were all musicals. And there's a very common through line there.
I mean, I think musicals are the easiest one to pick on because they're the hardest to really get into, and there's sort of a stigma behind musicals.
They're for sure the hardest for me to get into.
Yeah.
As someone who likes movies.
I will say though, there's it depends on what you enjoy. Like you're a storyline guy, and you enjoy characters.
I very much am.
Musicals aren't designed for that.
Anything
at
that
all.
like disrupts the flow of that, I am typically not a fan of.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's almost like a one-trick pony act. Like that's what they're for. It's just getting them on, and I think they're the easiest to pick on because of that. They're the furthest away from a movie and closest to like a Broadway show or like a carnival.
Like I would much rather watch a musical as a play than I would as a movie, because then at least I can appreciate them being live and choreographing everything in real time.
Yes.
Whereas like with a movie they did multiple takes, and there's some like probably special effects trickery going on in some cases,
It's trickery.
Yeah.
Old man Kyle here.
I know. There's some CGI haberdashery going on. I'm not standing for it.
Oh,
These
yeah,
young damn
exactly.
Zoomers. manipulating my eyeballs.
Oh, I can't wait till you're like 50 years from now.
Oh, I can't.
Going to movies again and talking to your grandkids.
Remember 824? It's like, okay, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Like, take your hat off.
Yeah,
Jesus.
we read your whole thesis on it.
Yeah, God. We saw your video on your channel. No one uses YouTube anymore. Our last answer comes from Jaylyn, who says, actually, comedy.
Oh,
Comedy as the least favorite genre. I can kind of understand that. I feel like for me, it's hard to find a comedy that I really find especially funny, you know? Like, there's not a whole lot that makes me, like, hysterically laugh in terms of a comedy movie.
Yeah, not unless you're talking about mosquitoes in your bed as bed bugs.
What's that?
Last night, so just for everyone, you know, and I'm not, it's not to get away, but you'll see my sense of humor and why I also don't like comedies. We're laying in bed and I told Jasmine I had a mosquito bite. And, you know, she's like, oh no, how'd you get that? And I looked at her and I was like, it means they're in the house, you know? Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh my God, what if they're in the bed? And I just started, she's like, and we have bed bugs. And I just started dying laughing. And I'm like, and I like, after 30 seconds, I'm like crying laughing. I'm like, Jasmine, you can't have mosquitoes in your bed. And I just started, and she got so annoyed. She's just staring at me and she's like, I don't know what the fuck you're laughing at or why you think that's so funny.
Oh, Megan's the same way. Like, Megan's the exact same way. I'll send her some like random ass Instagram reel or like say some dumb fucking shit and she'll be like, what?
Yeah, and it's like, you don't, it tickled me the right way.
Yeah.
Like, it just, for whatever reason, it provoked a thought and that was it.
Like, she'll send me a video where it's like some really like well put together comedy skit of like these people putting on a performance and it's like, oh, okay. And then I'll send her some dumb shit like fucking, oh, your bill is $10 or $10.20, and you give them a 10. Go, keep the change. Baby, don't hurt me. And it's like some dumb fucking shit. And she's like, why do you find that funny? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, minion banana. Haha. It's like, what?
Yeah, sometimes it goes off the Richter scale.
And I think that as a movie, I think it's really difficult to be a comedy and kind of capture a specific type of humor that someone has, because like people like different kinds of humor. Like, there's no wrong way to look at a comedy.
Oh, for sure.
And like, if you find something funny, you find something funny. If you don't, you don't. Yes. Like, it's up to that individual.
That's why I think that's why they're hard.
I think so too. And with me personally, I typically like something where if a joke comes and goes and it's done, that's totally cool with me. Whereas like a movie, you get a long form of a comedy and there's supposed to be jokes that carry through and maybe the actors have a different, like, harder time connecting with it, or like something that like you have to stretch it out basically. And with my type of humor, I appreciate more so like the coming and goings of like a quick video or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very challenging to hold their attention span for that long and to hold the humor that long.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it's just like some of the older stuff I still laugh at. Like, if I want to watch something funny, I'm probably going to throw on like Semi-Pro. You know,
yeah.
I find more humor in things that I used to laugh at.
There's some like nostalgic stuff that I definitely find funny. There's some like genuinely good comedy movies too. I think like Wet Hot American Summer, I really like.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's funny because
What We Do in the Shadows.
You find more comedies of things that you missed years past than you do like what's coming up now. Yeah, like
Wet Hot American Summer I watched for the first time a few years ago with Gideon, and I'd never heard of the movie really before, and I watched it, I was like, this is great. This is genuinely funny. Like, same with What We Do in the Shadows. I watched that much later. I think it's just about like discovering what you like rather than like counting on movies that are coming out hoping that they'll be funny to you.
In comedies nowadays, you have to relate to if you think about it, you have to hit a certain demographic, right? Like, Will Ferrell comes out with this PG-13 movie. He's trying to capture all of these young kids. So it's not going to hit like the way it was like when we were young. Now, granted, if I was 13 and I came out and watched a PG-13, I mean, I might find it funny.
Because I loved Kicking and Screaming when it came out, but it came out at the right time for me because I was playing soccer at the time and I could kind of not relate, but like I just found it funny just because I played soccer at the time.
It's relatable. I mean, it's
relatable enough, yeah.
And living in that sort of parody or satire or whatever they're kind of, poking fun at.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You can understand a little bit more. That's like yes.
There's something that you can approach it with. Whereas something like have you seen the preview for that movie Strays? That talking dog comedy movie that's coming out in August?
Yeah.
Or like the, was it Joyride? That movie about like the Chinese adopted daughter who like goes back to China to meet her real parents or something. Like they've been playing previews for that at the theater. Those movies I can't stand because those movies are just loud equals funny. And they're super slapsticky because they're just like, oh, look, person getting hurt. Haha, isn't that funny? It's like there needs to be more there. I feel like there needs to be something there
that's what I'm
hooks
saying.
me in.
You're not they're hitting 13-year-olds, man, 14-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
It's a 17-year-old.
I don't doubt it. Like high schoolers are going to fucking love Stray because it's dogs saying bad words. It's like, haha, dog said fuck.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? It's
that's
like,
what,
okay.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. I think the reason why comedies always, they're hit or miss because a lot of the time I think they're aimed at the general public and I'm like counterculture sometimes. So like if the general public finds it funny, I'm going to not find it funny.
Yeah.
And people hate me for it sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. It's just not that humorous. And I know if that 9
what do you want from me?
10 people find it funny, why do I have to find it funny? And I'm not like those 9 out of 10 people.
Mac is like, I am the 10th dentist that disapproves of this.
World War Z, the 11th man, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
If 10 all agree, the 11th man's got to find a reason why not.
Exactly. I'm there with you. I'm the 12th man.
12th man. There we go.
That could be our alternate podcast name.
Yeah. Cary Grant and the 12th man.
Yeah. That's awesome. That was our last answer. So
that's mine too, honestly. Like I was trying to think of, like I didn't want to hop onto musicals. So like just to get a glimpse from me, I don't despise musicals. I'm not all for them. I'm more of a very neutral. I used to hate them, but I don't like to pile on the hate with musicals. Mm-hmm. And once you say, it's kind of like Mario, the Super Mario movie. Like for me in my head, I go, that's what it's intended and designed to do. So I'm not going to sit here and lash on it. Like it just doesn't make sense. Comedies though, are a fucking art form that they get wrong constantly.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's all because they target it and because you have to make sure that you get at least 40% of the people in that audience laughing and telling other people, and that's not my style.
Yeah.
That's why I like The Big Lebowski. Like you say, it's a cult film. It's like, yeah, but it still rang more true to me, and that's why it fell off because no one thought it was funny. Like Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Another kind of came and went. I find it's hysterical. Like those types of movies, I really enjoy the humor in. So yeah, comedies to me are always the biggest misses, and the ones that hit the theaters are always the worst.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite. I would still say musicals are probably for me. But
you cop out son of a bitch.
I know, I'm a dog piler for sure. Yeah. Your co-host is a piler, man. How do you feel about that? I'm right there with them in the thick of it. But I think just personally, it's harder for me to get into, like we said before, multiple times. And I think that when you have a good musical, it's really good. And then when you have a mediocre musical, to me, it's like, this is kind of stinky. Like Dear Evan Hansen is probably the worst musical I've seen. It could be, honestly. Like it's about like a high school romance, sort of.
Yeah.
And it's a musical that's done super fucking poorly. Like, not even the choreography or the songs are good. Like, I can't even remember what any of the songs are because they're so forgettable.
Damn.
And the guy who's supposed to play a high schooler is like 33 years old at the time they filmed it. So it's fucking whack as shit just looking at him. Like, his face is like, oh, wow, this guy is signing up for AARP at the time of filming this.
That's casting. That's casting right there. You got to pick a problem with casting, not the movie.
Well, his dad was one of the producers on the movie, so,
no.
Little bit. James Gunn critics, if you're out there listening, accusing him of nepotism, redirect your energy towards that other movie that I just mentioned.
No one's
Dear
ever heard
Hansen.
of that's not making any money.
Yeah, I fucking flopped and tanked and crashed and burned. All the adjectives.
Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah, I should say verbs, not adjectives, but
adverbs.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Sounds good to me.
It sounds good to me too. Yeah, cool. I think we can start wrapping up, but first.
Oh, yeah. And I'm not saying I'm shitting on anyone's point of view. I'm glad that you all said something and that you appreciate it and that you hate musicals. We love you.
Yes, also, before I forget to, thank you guys for leaving those for us.
Yeah.
I will put up another thread, a Q&A thread, or a question for the audience thread when this episode comes out.
So you have questions, and then you have a question for the audience. I mean, there's a couple different things. We got to get one more on here.
I like alternating between them.
Yeah.
It makes it
get
fresh.
Like one more. We got to figure out one more. Give us your worst scenario or something.
Something. We'll think of something.
Hey, if you were in the road, what character would you be? We'll just ask that.
Dead corpse number 5.
Person. Everyone just says person in the basement.
Yeah. Skeleton in bed. That'd be me.
Oh my god.
In a dress.
Oh dude, he's
burnt
like
out mattress.
He's pulling out that fucking mattress.
Yeah.
So like in my head I was like, so he goes up there, he's yanking the mattress. I was like, that'd be wise. Like have the mattress go over like the hatch, right? I'm like, that's so smart. Like I don't know what he's doing it yet, right? And then I'm like, for some reason, whatever in there was like, no, there. Look at him. He's so fucking broke. He's just like barely going off anything. He's gonna sleep on that piece of shit, dragging it through the mud and rain. And I go out loud, like, picked a hell of a time to bring that down into the hatch.
Yeah.
Like I had it right the whole time,
Yeah.
and then for some reason I was like, he's so broken to spare. He's gonna sleep.
For
on
some
that.
reason, you doubted your own logic and the movie's logic and went, "No, that's
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
I've got it better."
He's gonna bring it down there. And I was like, what an idiot! God.
How stupid are you, Vigo?
Yeah,
God.
dragging it through the mud and like, why don't you just wait till? I literally was like, why don't you wait till tomorrow?
Get a load of this fucking guy.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he just throws it. And I was like, of course.
Well, shit. I was right the whole time. Fuck.
Of course.
Yep,
Of
of
course
course.
he was being smart about it.
Of course I was right. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't. I was wrong because I literally.
Well, you were right, and then you were wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you stuck with being wrong. So then ultimately you were wrong.
I did see it through, and I had open dialogue,
Yeah, exactly.
which is even more embarrassing.
You had time to think about it.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of thinking,
Yeah.
you got to think about what we're watching for the next
you
episode.
got to. So I told
Oh.
you it's red pill, blue pill.
Oh.
Okay. Now I'm gonna.
We're circling back.
I'm titling it "Waste or Space."
Waste or space?
So you get to pick waste or space.
Okay. Give me waste.
Boom. Okay. So can I tell you what space was first before I go?
Yes.
Okay. So space on the flight, I watched Mission to Mars, which blew my fucking mind.
Okay.
So, wow.
Oh.
So that will get brought up, and it was going to get paired with because in the late '90s, like there was a really heavy stream of space movies.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even like. I was talking to my brother, and I came up with. I was going to say Mission to Mars, Ghost of Mars. Red Planet, which is about going to Mars. And my brother's like Rocket Man, you know? And then I like Armageddon came out. These are all within 2 years of each other.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? So I was going to do that with one of those films. But
Okay.
we're going to channel that for the
Yeah.
waste. Going back a little bit to Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I guess James Gunn loves
Oh, man.
the Lost Souls, the Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh.
So, we're going to watch. Now, you got to tell me if you're good with two instead of picking one from theaters.
Okay.
Because we can, but there is we're going to watch The Island of Dr. Moreau. That's got to be watched.
All right.
All right.
Sweet.
Which I don't know what we're walking into. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
Based on a book, I believe.
Yep. By H.G. Wells.
H.G. I was about to say War of the Worlds, right?
Yep.
Yes.
That's right.
And Gunn loved that book so much in the maybe 1932 version of the movie, just Lost Souls. As some of the inspiration for the planet with the animals. I don't know what it was called. Earth 2? Counter Earth.
Oh, Counter Earth.
Counter
Yeah.
Earth. That was some of the motivation. Anyways,
Okay.
the second film is the documentary on the making of the Island of Dr. Moreau. It's called Lost Souls,
Okay.
possibly the making of the Island of Dr. Moreau.
Lost Souls. So is this the waste portion of what you were alluding to?
No, well, so the Island of Dr. Moreau is labeled as one of the worst movies ever made.
Oh, Okay.
So that's the waist part. But the reason why I wanted to pair them up together, one, we were talking about Val Kilmer, and when he was doing the Ghost in the Darkness, he just got done filming The Island of Dr. Moreau, I believe.
Okay, yep. Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer.
Yes.
Marlon Brando in a 1996 movie?
Dude, like, this movie was supposed to be fucking huge. And
I guess, yeah.
But that's why I want to watch the documentary with it.
Okay.
So I think what you should do, if we're doing it kind of like a pairing,
okay.
you should watch the movie first. Get your whole perspective on it, and then watch the documentary.
Okay.
And then see what maybe would have changed or some of the differences. It's kind of like that interesting, like the behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. And I believe this is a good documentary about it. I don't think it's just like people talking heads, because I think this guy's actually trying to make money.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we've got on the docket The Island of Dr. Moreau, 1996, with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer.
Yes.
And Lost Souls, the documentary about the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yes.
So we've got those two on the docket. I'm cool with doing just those. I don't know if we need to include a theater pick or anything.
No, I don't think so. We'll just we'll figure out another Q&A or...
Yeah, something. We'll get something going.
Yeah, name your favorite musical.
Favorite musical. I mean, that could possibly be a question. Who knows? Well, thank you guys for joining us. If you don't want to be spoiled for The Island of Dr. Moreau and Lost Souls, the documentary on it, be sure to check those out before episode 48. Ooh. This episode will be out. It's coming Sunday. We're recording it a week before it, a little bit less than that, but... thank you guys for listening. New episodes come out every other week. You can find us on www.neoncrewpodcast.com, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're slowly crawling up there. Follow our social media pages on Facebook and the YouTube community page. I'll post question threads or question for the audience or whatever else we figure out we want to do with it to engage with the audience and kind of have you participate with us in these episodes. And get some merch. Our Etsy page still up. We still got some stock. And get yourself a WWTHD shirt. I got that for Mac today.
Believe that.
He received it, and he's walking home with it. And
exciting.
Yes.
I just said that with an S.
He was very... he was so excited, he forgot the rest of the word. Yeah. He left out the other letters. You don't need them when you're talking about WWTHD. Excitement, exactly. When you're as cited as Mac is, you can just jump right into any word you want, and people will understand what you're saying. It's
all
awesome.
Words are made up words.
Yeah, it's pretty some, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But speaking of some,
well, real quick,
yes,
Yosemite, right?
Yep.
Best of luck.
Thank you. I will be gone for over a week, but that shouldn't interrupt our podcast happening. So this episode will come out the same time it normally does, the same day, same schedule.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll hopefully squeeze some movies in on the plane, or
at least two. I hope.
I hope so too.
Maybe you'll save them.
Yeah, we could.
Big screen.
Well, I'm definitely going to save the recommendations for when I come back.
Yeah.
So yeah. I might watch RRR on the plane, like I said, and maybe squeeze in another kind of cheeser film. Who knows?
Black Adam.
I'm not going to do that. No, I've already suffered. Listen, I've suffered. You suffered. Why should I suffer again?
I'm not going to remember my suffering.
Oh, I remember mine.
A year from now, I'm going to listen to episode 47.
Yeah, I remember my suffering.
Is this 48 or 47?
This is 47.
Yeah, you're going to be like, listen to it. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm going to be suffering in silence as I think about Drain My Cock Johnson.
Oh!
That's what I call him nowadays.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of actors, Mac, what are our parting words?
Same thing I say to my friends in public bathrooms. WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.